Well, good evening. I call the regular meeting of the Ames City Council to order for May 13th. And we're going to start off with a few proclamations. So we'll start with the Peace Officers Memorial Day. Those that are here want to come up to the front.
Come on.
Everybody come on.
Don't ask any questions.
I won't.
All right. So who's on patrol?
There'd be a spike in burglaries right now.
Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas the police officers of Ames have worked devotedly and selflessly on behalf of the people of this community, regardless of the peril or hazard to themselves. And whereas these officers have safeguarded the rights and freedoms of all in Ames, and whereas it is important that all residents know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their police officers, and that officers recognize their duty to serve the people of this community by protecting them against violence and disorder, by safeguarding life and property, and by protecting an innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas these men and women, by their patriotic service and their dedicated efforts, have earned the gratitude of the city of Ames, and whereas the service and sacrifice of Ames Police Sergeant Howard Snyder is eternally honored at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial and the Iowa Peace Officer Memorial, therefore I, John A. Hala, Mayor of the City of Ames, Iowa, do hereby recognize May 15th, 2025 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of the federal, state, and municipal officers who have been killed or disabled in the line of duty. This is done in recognition of the service given by the men and women who, night and day, stand guard in our midst to protect us through enforcement of our laws. Do you have some comments to make?
Thanks, Mayor. National Police Week has served as a powerful reminder of the courage, dedication, and commitment shown by law enforcement officers across the nation. This week stands as a lasting tribute to those who gave their lives in the line of duty. Here in Ames and across the country, officers serve with honor and heart, protecting our communities with integrity and commitment. This week, we take time to reflect on their sacrifices, support their families, and recognize the ongoing service of those who wear the badge today. To every police officer, past and present, thank you for your service, your sacrifice, and your unwavering dedication to others. Thank you to Mayor Hala and the City Council and our City Administration for your honor and support this week and throughout the year. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right, next is Poppy Days. We have Linda Henderson and Jody Mann here. Pardon me? Okay, Kara, that's good. All right, welcome. Whereas the month of May is a time for remembering, and whereas the American Legion Auxiliary traditionally distributes poppies for aid to disabled veterans during that month, and whereas distribution of these poppies is handled entirely by volunteer workers serving without pay, and where every penny received from the program goes directly for aid to disabled veterans or members of their families. And whereas most of the poppy funds remain in the local community, and whereas the local American Legion Auxiliary number 37 has responsibility for making Poppy Days a success. Therefore, I, John A. Hala, Mayor of the City of Ames, Iowa, do hereby proclaim May 23rd and 24th, 2025 as Poppy Days. This is a time when all residents will have the opportunities by their donations to honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice and assist the living. You want to say a few words or not? You're welcome to.
Like I said, I'm just filling in, but thank you so much to the city and the people in Ames for continuing to help us support and our veterans here in the community across the nation. Thank you so much.
Third proclamation, the national. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities, supporting public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Ames. And whereas these infrastructure facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for building, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, stormwater, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our residents. And whereas it is in public interest for the residents, civic leaders, and children in the city of Ames to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year of 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, the theme of people, purpose, and presence highlights three cornerstone ideals that motivate public works professionals to serve in their communities every day. Therefore, I, John A. Hale, the mayor of the city of Ames, Iowa, do hereby designate the week of May 18th through 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week. I urge all residents to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing the quality of life for all. Justin, you want to say a few words?
I don't have much of a voice tonight, so I'll be brief. On behalf of the 70-plus public works professionals we have here at the City of Ames, I want to thank the mayor and the council and city administration for your support of all that we do. And also as a board member of the Iowa chapter of American Public Works Association, we appreciate this recognition.
All right, move on. Item number 4, Discover Ames Yearly Report. Kevin, turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council and City Administration for allowing me to take a couple minutes tonight. I know this was in your packet, but I also brought hard copies of our annual report from 24. A couple things that I want to highlight in that report is the economic impact that our tourism in Story County and in Ames brings to the area. This report shows that in Story County that $228.3 million were generated due to tourism in Story County. These numbers come from the Iowa Economic Development Authority, and that's just an increase of $41 million over just the last 2 years. So it's a major impact and increase that we've seen, and it's not just in lodging. That's the one thing that a lot of people think that tourism, it's just all about lodging. And as you look at the graph in that report, that really it's food and beverage and transportation make up half of what the tourism dollars are that are brought to the community, and lodging is only about 19% of that. So it's important as we look at it from Discover Ames standpoint of how we want to attract visitors. It's not just heads and beds. It's attracting day visitors and any visitors that we can get to come to the area. I want to also highlight just a couple accomplishments that we made in 24. One of those is a report that we had contracted with Flynn Wright, a consultant out of Des Moines. They've done some work with the Alliance as well, very familiar with Ames. And we did a market study. And this report really was helping us to determine our 3-year marketing plan. And within that report, it was really to not really surprising that the majority of our visitors come to Ames because of Iowa State University for one reason or another, whether it's a fan, a prospective student, an alumni, visiting professor, whatever that might be. And so our goal out of this report is really to focus on those visitors that we know are coming here because of Iowa State University. Also want to highlight the RV There Yet TV show that just aired last month, a few weeks ago, for the first time on the Discovery Channel, a project that we did with the Ames Regional Economic Alliance in Boone County Convention and Visitors Bureau. A great way for us to highlight all the great things that we have in the area, from Boone County, Ledges State Park, Rail Explorers, the High Trestle Trail, and then Ames and a game day experience in the great downtown that we have, and other attractions at Iowa State with Ryman Gardens in that show. If you haven't seen it, we'll share a link again so you can see it. It's a half-hour show that will actually be aired as a rerun because it was so popular. They're allowed to do one rerun of that particular series, and they've chosen to do our show as that rerun. I also want to mention that our community grant has continued to grow as our lodging has grown. As you know, part of our agreement with the funding of receiving the hotel motel tax, we take 5% and put that into the community grant. And just in 2025 or 2024, we awarded over $110,000 to 28 events. This year it was $119,000 to 37 events. A significant increase. And we have also decided to take another 0.5% of the hotel motel tax and put that into a special request fund for community grant. That is for new events, primarily events that are trying to get off the ground, because their biggest challenge is really funding. And if we can help them get that off the ground through this community grant, this special request, we decided that this would be a good community project. The last thing I want to mention is just on moving forward here in 25, we've had a lot of great events with FFA, our traditional events like FFA, All-State Speech, All-State Jazz. We had Campus Town Showdown, a new event down in Campus Town, which was a huge success. Really proud of how that went. But we have coming up yet this year 2 USA Track and Field events out at Cyclone Sports Complex. We've also partnered with Catch Des Moines, who is hosting the National Senior Games. And we will be hosting 3 of their sports here, which will bring over 3,000 athletes over 7 days to Ames for a track and field, road race, race walk, and for golf. And then recently you may have heard that we were able to secure the boys high school state basketball championship starting in 2027. So that's been a long time coming project that we were really excited to make that announcement. And that is a 5-year agreement, and hopefully that will be here for 50 years or longer. So with that, I just wanted to thank you again for your support. It's great having council on our board. It's great insight for us and also an opportunity to share what we do. So with that, I'll be glad to take any questions, or you can move on with the meeting.
Thank you, Kevin. Questions?
I do have one question. We've been hearing about Catch Des Moines having some of their funding not coming back to them because Des Moines is no longer funding them in the ways that they have in the past. And I'm just wondering if you anticipate a shift in the market because of that.
Possibly, they're going through some leadership changes there as well. But so it's kind of a tough time to go through leadership when you're battling to retain the funding that you're getting. They do work with 11 different communities, so that does make it a challenge for them. Their support has been very strong, and they've done a great job down there. They're a very good partner of ours, so we support them any way we can. But if we can bring events to Ames that are down there, we're all good with that too. So it's probably too premature, Gloria, to answer that on how that's really going to affect us and our ability to attract more events. Our biggest challenge still comes down to venues. There's no doubt about it. We are at a serious shortage, and you'll hear more about that coming up here in the future, the very near future. But venues is still our biggest challenge.
Would you would you expound on just a bit? What do you mean by the biggest challenge is venues?
Well, we have a pipeline of hundreds of events that we would like to pursue, but we don't have venues that either qualify, that are big enough to host them, or that they just can't fit into the time frame that we have venues available. So if they're Iowa State facilities, we're subject to whether it's basketball schedule or a student's academic calendar like the Memorial Union. And really our only conference center is Gateway, and they're booked. They're booked solid. And so we may have another event that wants to come in, but we just don't have a place to put them.
So we say venue, do you mean like a flat space, or do you mean hotels, or what do you mean by venue?
More of a conference space, anywhere from 10 to 20,000 square foot space, open space that could be dividable. And we are working with Hunsaker and the Link to see how we can fit something into that footprint.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Great report. Thanks for coming,
Great.
Kevin. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
Oh, by the way, can people find this report on your website? Just okay. So they go to discoverames.com and they can find the same thing we got handed out. Very good. Thank you. All right, move on to consent agenda. Is there any item that council wishes to pull from consent tonight? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve consent.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you. We'll move on to public forum. This is time we set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those on the agenda. We ask people to limit their comments to 3 minutes if they can, or if they would. Is there anyone that wants to address council tonight under public forum?
Well, greetings, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Travis Tolliver with the Alliance and Ames Main Street. I want to take a moment and lift up Kevin and his team at Discover Ames. They're such a great partner and do such amazing things for our community. And that report was awesome. So thank you, Kevin, for all that you and your team do. I'm here tonight just to speak on behalf of the board of directors and want to thank you again for your support of 515 Days, which is coming up later this week. We truly appreciate your partnership in making downtown Ames such a vibrant place for the entire community to feel welcomed in. We'd like to extend a warm invitation to you and your families and the viewing public to join us this Thursday, May 15th from 4 to 8 p.m. for some family fun, some live music, and a food truck showdown. And then again on Friday, May 16th at Bandshell Park, where we'll have more food, more drinks, more live music. It's just going to be an awesome time and a community cash giveaway. If anybody's interested in becoming more involved in the event, they can go to downtownames.org and see how they can volunteer. But I just want to invite all of you to come and join us. And we just want to thank you again for your support. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks for what you do to make that happen too.
Hello, my name is Maddie Nasuti. I live here in Ames. I'm going to need more than 3 minutes. As you know, I've asked all of you to resign for misconduct. You haven't done it. You're still here. So-
just before you go any farther, I've asked people to limit their comments to 3 to 4 minutes. If this is regarding the letter you sent to us, council received it and read it. So if you hit the high points, that's fine. But I'm going to ask you to stay 4 minutes or less.
Well, it's important because it's not published that the people know what the scandals are that you're covering up. We'll start with number one. Ames has polluted drinking water. You're covering that up. I gave you a 20-page report that details all the problems. The problems are not rocket science. It's really easy. You test for 18 contaminants. You're in violation of the safety guidelines for the EPA for 4, including lead and forever chemicals. You test for 18. There's 320 major pollutants that are found in ordinary drinking water. You don't test for any of them. EPA has standards for 94 of them. The state has standards for 96. You don't test for virtually any of them. You don't know what's in the water. And yet you essentially tell these people the water's safe. It's not. You are in violation over 4 standards. Now, I've detailed to you what private companies have come in, and they've found contaminants in your water. They've found really deadly herbicides. 1,2,3 TCP has been found. They found, I forget, the tripropsan. You have chromium 6 in the water here. Now, people need to understand what chromium 6 is. There was an Erin Brockovich movie. The whole town of Hinckley, California got sick because their readings were just over 1 part per billion. You guys are pretty close to that, but you're covering it up. You're not testing for it. It's in your water. Private companies have found it. You're very close to having this whole town sick, but you're not testing for it. That's a scandal. Now, again, you should put it on your website, my 20-page report, and you should respond to the 13 scandals in there, but you're not going to do it. So the other scandal, which, since I don't have time for, is I detailed to all of you that there's a potential drug lab in this town. A drug lab, folks. This is our town. The person running it has a drug background. I've seen apparent drug sales coming from it. I have talked to the police chief. I've talked to the major. I've gone down to the police department. I've given you guys an affidavit so you can get a search warrant. Nothing. Now, I do have to credit your city attorney and city manager, both really good guys. City manager came out and he and I inspected at least it. It's very suspicious. It meets all the state guidelines for a drug lab or a potential drug lab. And for 4 months, I've done everything possible to get you in this police department to investigate this. I've asked you to set up a narcotics division, and I get silence from you. I get nothing. Look, I don't know what's going on in this location. It's certainly suspicious. It appears to be a drug lab. I mean, this city has a terrible record on drugs. You've never busted a drug lab. I've dealt with the supposed county, multi-county drug task force. They're worthless. They never get back to me. I've given them lots of information. They never get back to me. I mean, that's a scandal, folks. Now, I don't know what's going on. Either you don't care. I'm not sure why. Either people are just lazy in the police department because they won't get back to me. They won't do anything. It's not rocket science to do this. I've asked them to bring a police dog to the location. I know when they're actually working there. The police dog will alight if there's any type of drugs in the area, but they've never contacted me, never brought out the county police dog, did nothing. 4 months. I mean, what else do I have to do to get your attention? And I've asked you to resign. I mean, if you're not committed to drugs, I don't know what the reason is. Maybe a lot of people in Iowa State use drugs and you don't want to crack down on them. I don't know what the reason is, but it's certainly suspicious and it's not good for the community. I've given you 2 20-page reports. I've asked you to reform the police department. We have problems with internal affairs and with complaints against the police. I used to do that. I used to be a city attorney for LA. I know how internal affairs works. It doesn't work here. You have a terrible system. And I get silence. I get nothing ever back from you folks. And that's not acceptable. So the result is, and you're lucky. You're really lucky because you're protected by the press. The Ames Tribune will never report a scandal. They've covered up for you for a long time. I've given them report after report, and everyone should boycott them because they don't support the community. The same with the Iowa Daily. They're pro-establishment. They're not going to report anything. I've been in communication with Iowa State.
Maddie, I'd given you an extra minute.
Okay.
Please wind your comments out.
Yeah, I've been in contact with the president of Iowa State, and I've told them on this contaminated water, they get their water from you. The students should not be drinking your water. We shouldn't be drinking it. I've asked the president I told him that he needs to set up his own testing lab and his own water treatment plant because the water is not safe. And I'm going to be dealing with the alumni over there on it. But the result is you people won't resign. So the only option I have, since I'm really disgusted with it here, but I love the town, is I'm going to leave. So my lease is up in July, and I will be leaving Ames for a city that actually has a drug program, that actually combats drugs, that actually cares about its people, that actually tells the truth. I'm really disappointed in all of you, and it's a very sad day for Ames.
Council, when we got this letter with some serious allegations. I took the liberty to forward it to staff, and you have received a memo from our head of our water and wastewater treatment plant refuting every allegation. And John, if you want to just come up and just not go over the report, and the memo will be available to anyone who wants to see it. But because of the seriousness of the allegations that have been made, I think that it's in the best interest of our community to give full assurance that what is being said is totally incorrect, and I'll address the police accusations in a separate comment. John?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to give my professional assurance that the utility in Ames is in 100% complete and utter compliance with every requirement of the Safe Drinking Water Act and our operating permit that's been issued by the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. I reviewed that 20-page letter multiple times in great detail. I can tell you it is full of misstatements, of wrong interpretations of state and federal law, and several comments that are flat out defamatory. And so I'll leave it there unless council has any questions.
Yeah, no, that's more than adequate. It's just more or less, we normally wouldn't give this much oxygen to an issue, but when someone comes up and makes assertions that the water is not safe and it's going to poison people, I think it's important to set the record straight that that is absolutely not correct. And again, your memo is available to other people if they want to have access. Thank you, John. And regarding the accusations regarding the police department, I'll stand by our law enforcement department. They are fantastic, and they are taking this seriously. They have been looking into it, but just because something hasn't been taken care of to the satisfaction of someone doesn't mean that it's not being taken care of, taken seriously. And furthermore, we'll be asking for just a brief update from our police chief. He happens to be out of the office for a few days when he returns. But the point is that I think all of us are very proud. I think our community is very proud of the work that our staff and law enforcement and public safety members do. So with that, is there any other items of people want to address council under public forum? All right, we'll move on to item number 43, conversations on homelessness, Ames and Story County strategic plan.
So thank you. Good evening. In December, the city, the county, and the asset partners, through a request for proposal process, hired analytic.
Could you bring your mic a little closer so people can make sure they can hear? Thank you.
Hired Analytic Insight, led by Dr. Flowers, to help us understand what's happening in our community in regards to the homelessness issues, and also to come up with some recommendations of what the community could consider implementing to address homelessness. And so on April 28th, Dr. Flowers presented her findings in a public meeting that was 2 hours long. I think you were all a part of that. And there was ample time for the community to ask her questions as well about her findings. And then also published her report on the conversations of homelessness in Ames and Story County strategic plan. And so this event had over 100 people in attendance. So it was something that I think we've seen over and over. The community is very interested in coming together around this issue. And so that was recorded and it is available online. So for folks who maybe didn't make that presentation, we have made it available online. In the report, there are 9 overarching recommendations included that's organized by year 1, year 2, and year 3. So actions assigned to each of those years. Staff has had time to review this report and has outlined in the council packet that you received tonight just a recommendation of reordering those 9 recommendations. And then we also provided some comments on how the city could choose to play a role in each of the recommendations. And so I won't go through this in detail because it's all there, and we had the 2-hour presentation already on it. But I do just want to quickly point out that there are 4 recommendations where I think we could see some actions being taken on a quicker timeline than outlined in her proposal. So the first one is one of the recommendations was around continuing to support the on the grounds service provider partnerships. And so this is the idea of continuing to support the group that's now known as HOST. So the service providers who come together weekly to really just coordinate services for folks. So finding ways to help support that. The second recommendation is to provide robust case management services across the county. And so I think our community knows that case management has been a service gap in the area. And so we're continuing to find ways to fill that gap, and that work will continue ongoing. I just want to note too that the city had set aside about $96,000 of asset funds for continuous improvement and housing coordination. So this fund could go to help support case management in some form as well. The third recommendation was on creating a task force on homelessness. This was the one that after the community presentation, we heard a lot of feedback on folks wanting this group to really be put in place sooner than later. And so if you direct staff to continue working on this would be a priority area for us. And then the last recommendation that I think we'll see some action on fairly quickly is aligning with or supplementing local funding for emergency housing. So the recommendation here was, one, to make sure that the asset funders were in alignment on priority areas in the community, but also to start looking outside of the asset funders to other partnerships and other community partners that we could build relationships with to just kind of build more collaboration around emergency shelter services. And so tonight, what we're asking you to do is to accept the report and then to direct staff to continue working with the asset funders to identify priority items. I just want to note that like many other plans that the city does, if you accept the report, it doesn't mean that it's the adopted plan going forward or follow it to a T. It's just an acknowledgement that you have seen the report, you see it, and then from here, we would identify priority steps and come back with you all in about a month or so to identify what steps to take next.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
That was really good. That was my question, was just about our timeline. So you said about a month, and we'll hear back then sort of on those 4 goals and sort of each one's timeline. Is that?
Yeah. And what I plan to do too is, because the council gave that flex fund, if you remember back in the winter, you gave the host some flex funds to use. So in June, for sure, we'll come back and present how that pilot flex fund has gone. So at that time, we'll also provide an update on where we are on these items. Yep.
Thank you.
Pa, I just want to clarify for anyone who may be watching this. This is related directly to the plan document, and it doesn't include the recommendations staff have identified for short-term things that could be done to perhaps address the needs of individuals experiencing homelessness or those who are impacted by those experiencing homelessness. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I think that this report kind of only covers high level things. And I think the items that you're talking about, there's always kind of ongoing things that probably will be included in a report that's high level like this, but correct.
I just didn't want people to think that we're only looking at this.
Yeah.
This happens to be the item that's on the agenda, and we have received another memo regarding some of the more short-term, more detailed, on-the-ground kinds of things that can be done sooner.
Yeah. And I said this when we did the presentation on the 28th, but this report is not going to be it's not going to cover all the possible things that we could be doing here, and it's not exclusive to the only things that we should be doing here either. So there's a lot of actions happening at different levels throughout the community.
Other questions?
As we think about the collaboration, are you thinking of this solely in light of local providers and funders? Would there be some dialogue with regional, either homelessness organizations or the communities such as Marshalltown and Boone, who have closed their homeless shelters, and that perhaps is increasing our population? Or are we just going to focus on local? Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I think the focus has mostly been local because we're just trying to grapple with what's happening here. I think one of the recommendations Dr. Flower had is to really think more broadly about the Two Rivers region and not just Story County alone. So that would include the other surrounding counties. And I think that is kind of the next step we need to do as well, is to think broader into the two regions area, not just Story County, not just Ames.
I worry a little bit, and this is a fairly high level discussion tonight, that if we significantly increase what we're doing in the area of homelessness, Ames will become an even greater magnet for the homeless, and it will disincentivize other communities in their funding efforts because we're carrying that burden. So I appreciate the goal of thinking about this outside of just our silo, but looking at this from a regional perspective.
Other questions or comments?
Pa, what's the relationship between implementation of these plan goals and our CDBG money, if anything? I mean, should we be thinking about these items on our list as something that we may be considering focusing on more in our CDBG funding? I know we have that coming up later on our agenda. It's just what made me think of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely, the way I would say is we sort of treat our CDBG funds sort of like any other service providers that exist, right? So they're kind of another set of programs that can exist. So yes, we could think of our CDBG funds in light of kind of what are the missing gaps and where could that help fill in.
All right, we'll open up public comment. Does anyone want to address council on this topic tonight? Okay.
Hi, Kate Gregory, 803 Kellogg. I want to thank the council for this report and for the monies that city has invested, but I would say I find it a little bit disappointing because we've been talking about this homeless issue for now almost a year. And it seems to the public, at least it seems to many of me and my neighbors, that the city's taking sort of a Band-Aid approach and doing lots of little things. Gloria addressed some of the things that our city's doing but are not in this report. And it's unclear, I think, to many of us what the city's strategy is, where we're trying to head, and what we're all doing collectively to get there. So I would ask that as you think about implementing this, you would also step back and think about what's the overall plan, not just with this report, but all the other things you're planning to do and where you're trying to get, and publish that on a website or someplace so that we can understand where the city is trying to head. It's been a confusing year, and I'm not sure that this report has made it much clearer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll close public input. Do you have any, can you expand upon a little bit what Kate just asked about in terms of, I mean, is that not part of our next steps or whatever? I mean, I know it has been taking a long time, so.
Yeah, I think it's really tricky because there's no one or two organization that is gonna be the problem solver of this, right? It really takes a lot of collaboration around this, which is why part of the recommendation tonight is to refer it back to staff to work with the asset partners. I think we're stronger working collaboratively with the asset funders. And so we have a website available. We started a e-subscribe list as well, so folks can sign up for notification as we continue to work through this. And I always make myself accessible too. So if people have questions, you can always reach out too.
And I just wanted to say, I know I had been looking forward to the report. And so to sort of get a snapshot of where we are, as well as to think about what are the strategies that are successful in other places. And so now it appears that the work is going to be in Ames at this time. What are the things that we can do and should be doing? So I'm looking forward to those next steps.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments? All right. Staff is recommending accepting the conversations on homelessness, Ames and Story County Strategic Plan 2025 report, and direct staff to work with other asset funders to identify priority items. Is there a motion regarding that or another alternative?
Move alternative one.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Thank you, Paul. All right, move on at number 44, a resolution approving partner city cooperation agreement with the municipality of Podijeva, Republic of Kosovo, and we have president of our Ames International Partner City Association and past president, Carla McCollum and Cindy Hicks. And they have prepared a little background and then open to taking questions. Carla?
Good evening, Mayor Haylet and members of the Ames City Council. My name is Carla McCollum, and I am the Director of International Engagement for the Iowa State University Foundation at University Avenue here in Ames. I'm also the current president of Ames International Partner Cities Association, or otherwise known as AIPCA. I stand before you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I'm Cindy Hicks, and I think a lot of you know me. I reside at 2427 Tullamore Lane, and I am the past president of the AIPCA. I've been a board member for 8 years, and I really love it.
So we stand before you tonight on behalf of AIPCA to express our full and enthusiastic support for establishing a formal sister city partnership with Podijeva, Kosovo. This is not a new idea. It is the culmination of 5 years of relationship building, cultural exchange, and mutual interest. City officials from Podijeva have now visited Ames twice, each time leaving more inspired by the values we share and the opportunities we can create together. In June, members of our association will travel to Podijeva, Kosovo, with the help of taking something very meaningful with us, a signed partnership agreement from the city of Ames. This relationship is grounded in more than goodwill. Iowa and Kosovo have been formal partner states since 2013. A connection that began with the Iowa National Guard assisting Kosovo during its journey to independence. What has grown from this mission is something remarkable, a true friendship between our people, rooted in mutual respect, shared democratic values, and a deep appreciation for agriculture and community.
So I would like to share a little bit with you about the similarities between Ames and Podijeva. With a population of just over 88,000 people, it's a vibrant, growing city situated on a major highway and railway line. Sound familiar? It also lies near an important port. We don't have that, but wishful thinking. This makes it a strategic hub for European trade. Much like Ames, Podievo is agriculturally rooted, with key crops including corn, wheat, potatoes, and berries. They are actually the largest producer of raspberries in the world. The capital city of Pristina is 14 miles to the south. Sound familiar? The population of Podievo is predominantly Albanian. Our climates are similar. Our work ethics are aligned. And our commitments to youth, democracy, and innovation are strong. And yet our differences, cultural, historical, and generational, offer a rich exchange that can benefit us all. It's a combination of agricultural strength, central transportation links, international trade connections that mirrors the values and strengths we hold dear in Ames, making it an ideal partner for a sister city relationship.
Ames is not alone in fostering ties with Kosovo. We will be number 10 in cities that have established sister city relationships with Kosovo, including those such as Johnston with Pea, Norwalk with Vustri, and Clarion with Junik, and Des Moines with Pristina, the capital city, along with the capital city. If you go to Pristina, you will see Iowa Street, although they call it Iowa, but you will see Iowa Street when you go there because
the statue of President Clinton.
Yes, because that way President Clinton was instrumental in the independence, along as well as the Iowa National Guard going into Kosovo at the time during the conflict between Serbia and what was then Albania. But these partnerships have strengthened economic, educational, and cultural exchanges between Iowa and Kosovo, demonstrating the value of such relationships. Leaders from these cities have expressed their support for Ames for joining this this growing network, recognizing the mutual benefits that comes from this collaboration. I would also like to state that the only foreign consulate in the state of Iowa is that of Kosovo in Des Moines. And so it's a very important relationship, and that which Governor Reynolds has also reaffirmed Iowa's commitment to Kosovo. Just a couple of years ago, she herself went to Kosovo, recently renewing that Kosovo-Iowa sister state, or now called a state partnership agreement. Governor Reynolds has emphasized the importance of expanding economic and cultural ties, highlighting the success of Iowa's partnership with Kosovo in fostering business and educational exchanges. In addition, Secretary of State Paul Pate, Senator Joni Ernst, and Congressman Zach Nunn have also given their support for this important relationship between Iowa and Kosovo. And as many of you know, Joni Ernst even served over in Kosovo when she was serving in our military. Additionally, the Iowa Economic Development Authority has played a crucial role in supporting international partnerships, including that with Kosovo. Their efforts have helped facilitate trade and investments opportunities and ensuring that Iowa businesses can engage with Kosovo's growing economy. We expect this partnership to bring concrete opportunities to Ames. That, for the first of all, being economic development. Podievo has established an industrial park and has offered land to any Ames-based company interested in expanding operations abroad. They are actively seeking partners and have a population of young, eager adults, eager for employment and global engagement. and many of our the sister city relationships with Kosovo have begun to establish those business partnerships. It's not just one-sided. This is a mutual agreement with Kosovo. For example, Norwalk has actively sought a mattress factory as well as a hotel business coming into Norwalk. In addition, there has been many Kosovar restaurants that have opened up across Iowa, including not only Des Moines area. I know very well some that I've actually been to, including up at Mason City and Clear Lake. And so Kosovars are actually moving to Iowa. And part of that is due to the fact that we do have a consulate here in Iowa. And so it makes it easy for Kosovars to move to Iowa, get that support that they need to open a business here. And so having that partnership already, the mayor of Podievo has been here twice, has met with not only Ames economic development, but also with the Kosovo consulate and discussing those possibilities for right here in Ames, that they can do to develop businesses, as well as anything that they're offering for Ames businesses that would like to have a gateway into Europe. Again, they are only 2 kilometers, I believe they said, into Serbia, which is the Serbia transportation system supply chain is the gateway right into Europe. And they are, like we said before, the largest exporter out of Europe of raspberries. And so with that, they already have that supply chain set up for transportation into the European market. And so any business that would go into Podievo would have that access into the European market.
All right, so when we look at education and youth programs, we envision future cultural exchanges that would allow Ames high school students to visit Kosovo and learn firsthand about its history, culture, and resilience. Likewise, we hope to host youth delegations from Podievo here in Ames, perhaps even welcoming athletes to participate in future Iowa games, which they have expressed interest in. Public safety and governance. We're planning exchange programs between our police and fire departments. This is an opportunity to share training, techniques, and values in community service and safety. An exchange that will make both of our cities stronger. Arts, culture, and community. Kosovo is home to a vibrant art scene and several highly regarded wineries. Who doesn't like wine? We look forward to hosting art exhibits, wine tastings, and cultural events that highlight the creativity and craftsmanship of our partners. This exchange would enrich our cultural landscape while offering new opportunities for our local artists and entrepreneurs. There are already many partnerships between Kosovo and Ames, and I'll start with Iowa State University. Iowa State University has played a significant role in strengthening the ties between Iowa and Kosovo through academic collaborations. The university has partnered with Kosovo institutions on initiatives focused on agriculture, technology, and higher education development. Programs such as the Private Sector Partnership to Strengthen Higher Education have fostered collaboration between ISU faculty and Kosovo universities, helping students gain practical experience in fields like agribusiness and information technology. Additionally, ISU worked alongside the Kosovo Education Center to enhance research and teaching methodologies, ensuring that Kosovo's universities are better connected to industry needs. These partnerships align with the broader goals of the Ames Podievo sister city relationship, reinforcing the importance of educational and economic collaboration.
Ames is home to a diverse population, including a growing number of Kosovo residents. While exact figures are difficult to pinpoint, Ames has welcomed Kosovar students, professionals, and families who contribute to the city's vibrant community. Many Kosovo residents are affiliated with Iowa State University, either as students or faculty members, further strengthening the cultural and academic ties between Ames and Kosovo.
So a new development is with the Rotary Club. The Ames New Rotary Club board will vote on May 19th to launch a book drive for school children in Podievo. If approved, the collected books will be hand-delivered by our delegation to the Rotary Club of Podievo. We see this as a first step in building a lasting international partnership between our two clubs. In Kosovo, children begin learning English as early as the first grade and are eager to read English language books, yet they have limited access to them. Through our sister city relationship, we hope to help change that and open new doors for young learners in Podievo.
So now it's the call for action. In a world that often feels divided, and we see that right now currently in our world, initiatives like this remind us that local governments and citizens have the power to build bridges. We do not want just a ceremonial relationship. We are building a working relationship with real benefits rooted in people-to-people diplomacy. Ames has always been a leader in innovation, community building, and international engagement. Tonight, we have a chance to write a new chapter in our sister's global story, our city's global story, one of friendship, collaboration, and shared growth. We respectfully ask for your support to officially adopt Podievo, Kosovo as Ames' next sister city. Let's take this next step together and carry this signed agreement with pride when we visit Podievo in June. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions?
I have a question. So we're currently sister cities with Koshu in Japan. How do you anticipate it would work to have two sister cities?
So currently, with the structure that we have at the Ames International Partner Cities Association, we do have a very collaborative working group of members right now. We are able to add on Kosovo without adding, we would add a committee, but without adding on actually new members. We're all able to handle this because of the way that Koshu is set up with every other year visiting and every other year they come here. Then we could look at that, then that year in between, then Podievo could come here or we could go there. So right now we have the structure set up that we could successfully operate with two sister cities.
I would like to add that for the last 2 years, we have implemented into our budget money for Kosovo. We've been anticipating this partnership for a long time. And so we have been looking to put it in our budget. We currently have in the current fiscal year $2,000 for a visit to Kosovo, which we will be utilizing in June. But we are also looking at ways to fundraise to support our different initiatives.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Other questions?
This isn't so much a question as an observation, and maybe I'm wrong and you could correct me. It feels like this opportunity has more potential in more areas than the current sister city relationship that we have, which has always felt to me more educationally oriented than economically or artistically or public safety oriented.
And then I'd like to as well.
Okay. So I just asked her to speak to this. We have a wonderful relationship with Koshu, Japan, and that came out of the Great Hog Lift after Yamanashi Prefecture was flooded back in the 60s by a typhoon. 65 years ago this year. Yeah, and so we don't want to let go of that relationship. And it is an extremely vibrant cultural relationship. This relationship with Kosovo, with Podievo, is different. And as a result, we will get different things from it. And I think that is going to be a good thing. Like, you know, they're looking to expand. They are looking to put their businesses out here. They are offering free land, tax free, and trained employees for any business in Ames that wants to expand to Podievo, Kosovo. And they are hoping that they can expand here too. I don't think they're asking for the same things that they're giving, but
Well, and the one thing that I want to say as well is with Koshu, you know, one of the things that this year has been, and maybe hasn't got a lot of press yet, but, you know, we just did the origami crane making for the 1,000 cranes that are going to be displayed at the Iowa State Fair. In addition to that, we're looking at developing Wine Fest, which Wine Fest fits in both with Koshu and Kosovo, because both are makers of wine. And so developing that international business and trade environment, as well as Koshu was here last year before. I lose track of time, but in businesses and looking at bringing in a tea here into Ames to sell, as well as a fragrance. And we are still moving forward with that. It's been a little bit slower just because we have to work through, as our esteemed colleague who's also on the board, we have to work through the USDA and those types of things to get the fragrance here and the teas here. And we're doing that. And so we're moving forward with that part of it as well. So as Cindy said, they are different, but that's what you should expect from different relationships. There's something different to gain with that as well, because of the Iowa National Guard being so embedded into Kosovo. We have a lot of interest as well from citizens of Iowa in this relationship. And so that with that, we hope to also expand our volunteer base for those that have served in Kosovo or family members who have served in Kosovo that want to be involved in the Kosovo relationship, while also having, you know, that we've been involved this year heavily with the Japanese Association at Iowa State. And so kind of garnering both those relationships of people that want to be interested in either Kosovo or Japan. And it really serves us if it's a different relationship and a different group of people that want to be involved to expand. As Cindy said, we want something different from each relationship. We want it to be vibrant in its own measure. And we want to offer the citizens of Ames the involvement that they would like to have. And so some are going to be interested, you know, with Kosovo, there is already a heavy involvement with AAU sports. And I was fortunate enough in 2022 to be a part of that delegation that went to Kosovo then and that handed out the volleyballs. And what we did was when we handed out the volleyballs, we went to an area along the Serbian-Kosovo border. And for the first time, Serbs and Albanians were able to play sports together.
Any other questions?
And so we want those different things.
Other questions?
One question. So was the decision to select this city sort of driven by sort of state priorities and focusing on Kosovo? I mean, there are certainly lots of other cities in the world that we might have chosen. We have a large Italian company here. Was that consideration?
We did.
And we can
we have looked at Italy. And we've had those conversations with the Veneto region. The Veneto is a sister state to Iowa. And we have had those conversations with the government of Padua and with Venice. We did not, the issue wasn't that we were not interested in Italy. The issue was finding a city. Everybody wants a sister state with Italy. And of course, Barilla is out of, I believe, Parma. And that also has not been a relationship that has been able to be formed even by Des Moines. That's depending on the size of the city, apples to apples when you're going the size of the city. So we have been looking into Italy because of our agreement, or because of Barilla being here. Denmark, as well as you may know, Grandview and down in Des Moines is the only Danish university in the United States.
And
there's a relationship
Did I
there.
answer your question, Tim? Or
Yeah, I'm good.
So, yeah.
all right. Anything else? Open up public comment. Is anyone who wants to address council on this topic tonight? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll close public comment. Thank you, ladies, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Any closing questions? Otherwise, I entertain a motion.
I would move that we approve the attached cooperation agreement with the municipality of Podujeva, Kosovo.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye. Corriere.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. I'll follow up with you.
Thank you.
I'll follow up with you tomorrow on the next steps. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, move on to item number 45, resolution authorizing city staff to partner with IEDA on pay as you save. Good evening, Nolan, Don. Maybe you could fold your mic over. That would work for you too. It's up to you.
We share.
Good evening, Council. We're considering a partnership with the Highway Development Authority on a feasibility study for an energy efficiency financing model known as Pay As You Save, or PAYS. So a little bit of background on the model. In this model, the utility invests into energy efficiency projects upfront and is repaid over time through a monthly charge on a customer's bill. So critically, projects only qualify for the project, or only qualify for the program if the savings exceed the monthly cost that it would take to pay for the project. So this results in a net savings for the customer. So the purpose is to remove barriers that customers would normally face in installing energy efficiency upgrades, making them more affordable and more accessible. So in the past, we've had informal discussions with IEDA about this model. And then recently we were approached by them with this proposal for a feasibility study. They're proposing to fully fund the study with a grant to the Energy Efficiency Institute, who would conduct the study. So the reason why we're looking at a feasibility study is because we have some outstanding questions about the model. We want to fully understand the costs and the benefits, how the program would be designed, how it would be operated. So our only commitment to this study would be staff time to actively participate in the study. It doesn't commit us to implementing the program. So it would merely give council and staff the information needed to make an informed decision about the program. So that's it to Don. Anything you want to add?
So what PAYS will do for us, right now we have a strong where customers can ask for somebody to come into their home and do an energy audit. We give them a report, they look at it, and oftentimes it may say, boy, you've got a 15-year old air conditioner or something like that. What the PAYS program theoretically would do is it would take some of the barriers that would occur where a customer maybe can't afford a furnace, things like that, because the money is brought through the program to pay it. And ideally then any project that moves forward, the energy savings that would be caused by that project then would be enough or more than what the return or the amount of money that would have to come back to pay off that. So that's the idea, is the customer will see an immediate energy reduction. But again, this is not saying that we want to move ahead with the program. We would be the first one, I believe, in Iowa to set this up, and IEDA is very interested in doing a feasibility study, and they're willing to pick up that cost. And we'd like to at least explore it and see if this will jumpstart, or not jumpstart, but enhance our energy audit program. And it is, as we've stated in the the council action form, that it does help us move in our climate action plan. We're open for questions.
Thank you. Questions?
This is just for things like appliances and home repairs for energy efficiency, not like solar panels?
It could be used for solar panels.
Okay.
Other questions? All right, open public comment. Anyone want to address council on this topic? Seeing none, we'll close public input. Any other questions? Otherwise, entertain a motion.
Would move alternative 1. Second.
Okay, roll call.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, move on to item number 46. Keith. Actually, 46, 47, 48.
We'll try to go through these really quick. So first one, Brookside Park playground equipment. You know, the information is there, and generally we don't, this winds up on consent. But one of the things that we want to talk about is, well, two things. One, we are adding a component to the swings this year for this playground that we do not have anywhere in the park system. They're called generational swings. We did have a picture in the packet for you. It's a parent and a child, 2 kids could use them together. So really a neat addition. So this may be something that we'll wind up adding in other places as well. But the other thing really wanted to talk about, so Brookside Park is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. And it just so happens that Noon Kiwanis recently celebrated their 100th anniversary as a Kiwanis club. So we've been having conversations actually for a couple of years and kind of work together. And Noon Kiwanis is bringing forward or contributing $75,000 to this playground. We have roughly just under 75,000. So we are going to by Hickory Shelter in Brookside Park, which is near the fire truck. So what we felt we were going to do is have a kind of a fire theme, and those pictures were also attached. So just wanted to thank Noon Kiwanis and their club for their commitment to this project. We are looking at doing some type of a celebration in September to do a ribbon cutting as well as a birthday celebration and have just a number of different activities. So with it, alternative 1 is what the city manager's recommendation is to award a contract to Boland Recreation for their playground. Any questions?
Questions for Keith?
Keith, was there any consideration given to having at least one of the accessible swings like we've got out at the Ames Grove playground?
So the oodle swing.
I don't know what they're called. The ones that you can roll a chair onto, or
Yeah. So with we probably wouldn't do one of the roll-on ones, but we so with these, the oodle swings is actually from a different manufacturer. So what we could do is we could take a look and see if we would have enough money potentially. It might be kind of tight, but we could maybe take a look and see if we could add an oodle swing because it does get a lot of use up at Ames Grove. So we could take a look at that.
Other questions? All right, open public comment. Anyone want to address council on this project? Seeing none, close public input. Not related to the motion, but out of curiosity, what's the future of the fire engine at Brookside Park? Is that going to remain or is that going to be removed?
So yeah, so with the fire engine, we have had over the years, done some work on it to make it safer. We've had to take some components off. We've added, some stairs. We've added some different surfacing, around it just to make it safe. At some point, It's not imminent yet, but at some point, that will probably have to be taken out of the park system because it would just be, unsafe. But maybe we can find a different fire truck to replace it because it is iconic. I don't know that I've ever come across a family in Ames that has not had some type of picture taken on that fire truck. But the main thing is that we always want to make sure that users are safe, and if it gets to the point where it's not safe, we'll have to make a change.
The bike ride on Saturday, someone came up and said, "My kids don't know this is Brookside Park. They call it Fire Engine Park." So anyway,
Yeah.
All right, entertain a motion.
I would move that we award the contract to Boland Recreation, alternative 1.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Garten,
Aye.
Junk,
Aye.
Betcher,
Aye.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins,
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
All
Mayor,
right.
could I add or try another motion,
Sure.
which would be to ask staff to include, what did you call it?
An oodle swing?
An oodle swing if the budget allows it and there is funding available after the rest of the installation.
Second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carried. All right, item 47.
Yeah, so with this one, I brought my consultant along, Kelly, to kind of go through the details of this one. So go ahead, Kelly.
So on the next item, Keith has 3 contracts to go out for bid. So tonight, this outlined area is where Keith has a project to add a garage storage maintenance area improvement. Our code has 2 situations that trigger sidewalk improvements. One is if you are on a part of a parcel called a conveyance parcel, which is why we're here tonight. The other is if you are constructing a principal structure, you trigger a sidewalk improvement if you're not a residential home. So in this case, the cemetery property has had approved surveyed layouts for plots of the cemetery, but there was a remainder of land that was never platted in the past. So by our code, we require a plat to establish monumented and surveyed boundaries to a property. So it's not that it's not property we own and possess, it's just by deed description, and we require that. So in a conveyance parcel, our code does require that missing infrastructure be added. In this case, that would be a sidewalk on East 13th Street. So tonight, what's being requested by the Parks and Recreation Department is to have council consider waiving the installation of a sidewalk, essentially in the area of that yellow dashed line, even though the full cemetery property or most of the cemetery property is being combined with this, that is already a platted lot. So we're not talking about sidewalks that go up 13th Street or along Maxwell right now. We're just talking about the segment that would be with the maintenance shop. So in our code, in the subdivision code, which is the genesis of the requirement, council can waive sidewalks for a variety of reasons. The 2 that we looked at in the report and focused on were really, are there other conditions or unusual topography that would dissuade you or convince you that it's not appropriate to construct a sidewalk here? So as staff looked at that, there isn't a method to really ever build a sidewalk on the remainder of 13th Street because of the retaining wall. So that would meet a topographic condition. The next would be, is there an unusual condition? In this case, what we're bringing to your attention is the walk, bike, and roll plan that identified that East 13th Street probably can never have sidewalks on both sides, but maybe a trail on the south side may be appropriate. And that is a very low priority in the plan, but it is possible to be done. So what's unique here that's different from maybe a private project is a private project would be asked to contribute towards their segment of improvement. So if we had a trail on this frontage, we would say, well, you need to build your segment. Someday the city would come in and build the rest. Well, we are the city, so it would be our project regardless. So I think the real question is, do you want to see an interim improvement, which is what we've shown as an attachment to this report, triggered with the maintenance shop construction, or do you want to waive the requirement now, knowing that someday it's a city project to do the trail anyways? There's no schedule for that city trail project. That's not a priority that we have. But I think that's the essence of the request. And so you have an attachment. I'll put this up. If you were to require a sidewalk, Parks and Rec's consultant for the site plan put this together, which was trying to make maybe a usable segment. So what's proposed is a small portion on 13th Street, but then to have a crossing at Meadow Lane to cross 13th Street. And you'll also note in the packet that crossing has some issues in terms of potential safety from our traffic engineer. So you have a lot of different factors at play here. You could require a portion of a sidewalk to be built. You could say it does not have to connect at Meadow Lane. You could waive it all in its entirety because of the unusual conditions that are associated with the property. So for tonight, we're recommending as staff that with all of the factors that are considered, you could justify a waiver. If you choose to proceed with any version of a sidewalk, that would then require Keith it's included as a bid alternate, I think, right now, based on this plan. They would have to update that a little bit to kind of make it conform a little bit better to engineering practice along the frontage. But we really need to first understand if any version of a sidewalk is going to be required at this time.
Thanks for the explanation. Questions?
So Kelly, when you say required at this time, we're still assuming under walk, bike, and roll that there may be a trail at some point that connects here?
I think we said it's the lowest priority project in the plan. So it's not anything that's happening soon. You already have a parallel facility on the other side of 13th Street. So in the walk and roll plan, when you have the shared use path facility on the other side of the street, yes, we want dual-sided facilities on most corridors across the city. But when you have that one major one already and you have undeveloped land on the south, it ranked very low as a priority for the city.
And was there a plan to connect that up into the cemetery? Is that what the whole idea was, that we cross the parcel to get to the existing?
Yeah, I think effectively you run along the street frontage and then at some point in this area, you transition into the cemetery and make a connection over to this area and you work your way over to Maxwell. Because again, 13th Street is not practical to have any pedestrian facility.
So the 13th, the trail on the north side of 13th is one of the nicest bike trail segments we have in Ames. We can't spend money just building random segments where you have such a superior for bikers, walkers, runners on the north side. So I think we just need to put this to rest and waive this. Ready for motion?
I'll take public input first.
Okay.
Open up public comment. Anyone want to address council on this topic? All right, with public input, entertain motion.
Alternative one.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call.
Aye. Betcher.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
All right, move on. Number 48.
Thanks, Kelly. So with item 48, this is a little unique also. Usually we don't put three projects on for plans and specifications for approval of them on the same council action form. But do want to just clarify that all three of these projects, they will be bid separately. So we're not bundling them together. They are three separate projects, but what we really wanted to try to do is just show you why we're doing this, is that with the three separate projects, because we're getting the waiver from the state that we do not need to build a restroom facility for the Daily Park splash pad. That's project one. Project two is the Ada Hayden Trail, and then project three is the maintenance facility that we just spoke about, is that we do have some significant savings based on the engineer's cost opinion. And that will, and we have with the maintenance facility, we do have a shortfall. So between the three projects, you can kind of take a look. I'm not going to go through each one of them. I know you're very familiar with the first two projects. We just kind of went through the maintenance facility. I'll just mention with that one, project number 3, is that we really are trying to consolidate our parks division into one facility. Right now we have buildings up at the cemetery. We have buildings in the floodplain close to Skunk River, either beyond their life or they are in the floodplain. We're really trying to get everything together, get our staff all together. Really see a lot of efficiencies and effectiveness by doing that. So that's really what we're trying to do with that third project. So in the council action form, I'm not going to go through each of the project costs and so on, but when you get to the last, the funding aspect, you'll see with the Daily Park splash pad, we're looking at, about a surplus of $425,000 with Ada Hayden, the trail, a shortfall of about 78,000. And then with the maintenance facility, about 429,000. So altogether with the three projects, what we're showing in regards to the engineer's cost opinion and available funding, we're still showing about $81,000 in a shortfall. Now you may ask, why are we bringing this forward with a shortfall? So with this, in those three projects, we have 10 alternates included in there, and those 10 alternates them together with contingency are over about $520,000. So in addition to that, so if the bids were to come in at the same level as what the opinion is, what we could do is we could choose to not issue or award some of those alternates and then come within what we have funding for. Another option would be to use savings from other projects. Now we do have some projects that are in process right now, and by the time that these bids are due, they will be completed. So we could have some potential savings of some additional projects that we could use. And then also a third option could be use Park Development Fund or Guido Winokur money. So what we really want to do is say that there are multiple options for us to award these projects, even though we're showing $80,000 of a shortfall right now. So that's why we brought all three of these projects together. All three of them are very important. The splash pad will provide an aquatics facility and an amenity on the west end of town, which we do get a lot of comments about not having as many recreational opportunities on that end. The trail at Ada Hayden, needed safety, all those types of things that we've talked about before. And then the maintenance facility, I've kind of mentioned that one as well. So city manager's recommendation for this one is to approve alternative number one, and there's an A, B, and a C approving the plans and specs for each of the three projects separately. So entertain any questions.
Keith, on the splash pad, I have also received a lot of questions about the timing of this. And according to the report, you're looking at completion not until June 1st of 2026. So was there any possibility this could be done this year?
So it really depends on contractor availability, and what they can do. So really with this, we're bidding it in kind of two separate things. We actually have an RFP out for the equipment and the installation right now. So we'll get that back. We'll bring that when we bring the bids back and award contracts. We'll do it all at one time. So I think what we'll need to do with that is see who gets the award and really talk to them about their availability. So if they are available this year to complete it and we can get it completed this fall, we will do that. And then we would be able to open it sooner than June 1st. But even if they have to start the project next spring, we probably wouldn't open it any earlier than Memorial Day weekend. So we're talking only a week. Even if we were able to get it completed this fall, we would still only be able to open it maybe a week earlier than what we're saying right now with June 1st. So I don't know if that helps you or not.
It does. And I want to be careful. I don't know what's involved in the actual construction of this. So maybe there's more to this than I would think, but it seems like a big concrete pad with a pump and piping some water in. The other piece, we've talked about this before on Daily. My only concern about this continues to be the parking at Daly Park. And so just remind us sort of your posture on thinking on is if we add this amenity, I'm concerned that we're going to overwhelm the parking that's there. Could you speak to that? Because it's not a ton.
Yeah. So we do have a small parking lot. The Daly Park is connected very well with shared use paths. So people in the neighborhood or even within a mile, 2 miles, will be able to get there through our shared use path system. So that's a plus. The other thing that we have talked about in the past, and we just need to make sure that gets completed, is actually taking, right now, parking is on the west side of Wilder, and we have had conversation about moving the parking to the east side of Wilder. So now everybody will be able to park on the same side of the park and be able to use it. So we have talked about adding additional off-street parking in the future, but we do not have it scheduled into the CIP and the 5-year CIP. But that is something that we'll monitor and we'll see what happens. But right now, when we're looking at it, and with a lot of people coming from the neighborhood area or within a couple of miles, either walking or biking, we do feel that will be okay for right now.
So when the splash pad was at Brookside, which is also very well connected on the trail system, were people accessing it through the trails? This is going back a long time for when we had little ones. It seemed like we would just throw the kids in the car to drive over there. And if that's what most people do, and obviously this is something you can monitor, but I just want to make sure that's on your radar screen. I'm not super excited about having families cross the street there if there was possibility of having parking on the same side of the road as the splash pad. So those are my thoughts, and you'll monitor that. I have complete trust in you on that.
Yep.
Other questions?
I think there are a lot of residents who will be very glad to see that project completed, and many who have thought that it's fallen off the projects list. So we're glad it's moving forward.
Yeah, and we have, I know there's frustration. We get frustrated, and a lot of it centered around the state of Iowa trying to get answers with do we need an additional facility? Don't we need additional restrooms? And now we finally got the answer. So that's why we're moving forward.
All right, any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, do you want that motion made as one, or do we need to split them out?
I would think that if you move alternative one, it would be encompass all three of those.
So I would move alternative 1, A, B, and C.
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call.
Betcher,
Aye.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins,
Aye.
Corriere,
Aye.
Garten,
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, move on to item number 49, update on applications received for a voluntary annexation.
So back in March, we reported back to you about our progress in regards to the Borgmeyer property, which is shown in red at the bottom of this map, and the interest of pursuing the annexation of the Iron subdivision properties with the Golf and Country Club property because of the prior development agreement that preceded its development, and it was to be annexed at the request of City Council. So in March, you split the red Borgmeyer property off, and we're now in process to look at that annexation separately. And then in parallel, you asked us to go back to the Irons residents and to the Country Club with an offer to encourage their submittal of a voluntary annexation application by April 30th with a 3-year partial transition of taxes, which means that the city's tax rate steps into full full application. So all the other levies from the other entities would remain the same. It'd just be the city's levy that is partially reduced on that 3-year basis. So since that period of time, we have received in, is it blue or the hatched? Which ones are the ones that are? Blue is consenting. Yep. Okay. So blue is consenting, which the key property was the country club. With the acreage of the country club, the council can consider proceeding with a traditional 80-20 annexation rather than 100% voluntary, because we did not receive applications from all of the owners of property. So this has been unique. We've talked about this quite a bit. There's an obligation from the agreement to voluntarily apply. The only way to enforce that is to go through a court order of some type. If they don't apply, that's why you asked us to offer the incentive. So if you choose to move forward, we can do that tonight and initiate an 80-20 annexation. The transition of taxes offer would still stand, and it would apply to every property in the annexation, whether they signed the application form or not. If you want to look at this in a different configuration, we would need that direction, and we'd have to look at alternative 2 or alternative 3 if you don't want to proceed with alternative 1. I do want to highlight one other issue that has come up frequently in all of these conversations. So separately from the annexation, there's a requirement eventually someday for a sanitary sewer extension to be extended through the Irons development to serve the residential properties. So back in March, the city council also directed staff, so it'll be the planning department and the public works department, to explore how a sanitary sewer extension may work as a special assessment project led by the city. So in that scenario, the city would initiate the project, they would construct it, but the city would be repaid by property owners over some predetermined schedule, typically 10 years for such an improvement. Now, there's no guarantee that that's a financially viable option for the owners, but council wanted us to investigate that so we could get some good engineering information about possible routes for the sewer. Maybe the current easements that there doesn't work very well and there's a different option. So you asked us to do that. And what we've told the owners that we've spoken with is we're not in a position to answer that now. It is not tied to the annexation. We need to work a little bit more with the Borgmeyer developer to understand their timing. The sewer that eventually has to get here has to come all the way from Hyde Avenue. So the thought is that the city has some participation in extending that from Hyde to the railroad, and then the developer would likely possibly take it from there all the way to the west side of the property, which then gets you to the iron. So you can see it's a big project, how that all works. We know that from depths, we can serve it. But actual alignments within the project are what we need to work on with the Public Works Department. So we'll look at specifically, you asked for timing information, you asked for cost. There's been comments about how does the abandonment process work for the septic systems. We'll work with the county to understand what those processes are. We don't control the abandonment process. That's the county for septic systems. And we expect to be able to come back to you later this summer with more information. And we'll obviously share that with the Irons residents. I don't know that it'll be better than the options that exist today on their own, but it may be beneficial for everyone for the city to look at that as a special assessment project. So do you have any questions on either the annexation or the sewer extension?
Any questions? All right, open up public comment. I have Lee Huey. You've asked to comment, and then after that, others who want to comment, they're welcome to do so.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Steve. I live at 5411 Irons Way. I live with the owner, Jennifer Grote, and I do have a limited power of attorney to speak on her behalf. I guess the biggest concern of speaking as living in the Irons Way development, there's a very big concern about the cost of this whole thing. As near as I can come to figure and talking to a lot of people, it's probably going to be on the low end of about $20,000 per property, and maybe at the high end of about 50,000. If we have to take out our septic systems, the yards will all be dug up. The landscaping will all have to be replaced. We have an irrigation system that'll all have to be replaced. And the other thing that's quite a rub with the homeowners is the fact that these are brand new or within 5 years, and they're state-of-the-art septic systems. They are apparently are quite a bit less polluting than the old original septic system. So there is a concern that if we need to tear them up, what's the purpose? These probably will last another 20, 30 years without disturbing them. And with proper maintenance, they should last that long. And we have a part of our homeowners association. We do have a septic system person that comes and inspects the systems every year. The county, of course, requires us to pump the systems out every 3 to 5 years. So I guess my point is, and I just wanted to draw your attention to that fact, that this could be quite expensive. And plus, there's one other thing I wanted to stress. If anyone in the development wanted to sell their property, this is a cloud hanging over the sale of that property. And it's a significant cloud because we don't have really any good answers to tell the realtor. I've talked to several realtors, and they just scratch their head and say, well, you know, I'm just not sure. So it's a problem. And I'd like to see more investigation into the matter before you vote on annexation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee. Daryl, do you want to address council?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Shanker, and the council members. Daryl Veggie, 5527 Irons Way. It's my 4th time here, not because I enjoy being here, not because I appreciate speaking in front of you, but I am passionate about this item number 49. Well, first of all, before I go any further, I want to make a public apology. Last time, I think I referred to your actions as thug-like. And so I do apologize for that. I didn't win my way into your hearts with that. So I am opposed to this annexation. You have every legal right to do it. The statements are there, the signed agreements are there, but you don't need to do it. Why do you need to do it? Who asked? Kelly Diekman says, you guys asked us to pursue this. Well, I don't know who asked. Anybody here? And the other thing, who cares? If I look outside the walls of this here place, nobody cares about this annexation. There are 31 households and a country club that are really opposed to it because it's going to be expensive, it's going to be disruptive. And I'll bet in this room, there are only 4 people that really give a darn about it and say, we need to annex this. I'll bet 4 people. So I don't know why it needs to be done. Maybe somebody can tell me. So far, what I've heard for in our motion tonight, because we don't want to create islands. Well, there's no island being created. It's open to the north, it's open to the west, no islands being created. And we want to create more uniform boundaries. Well, that's very nice. More uniform boundaries. I'll tell you what, I don't care about those uniform boundaries. There's too much pain and too much distress that's going to happen as a result of this annexation. And not so much the annexations, but what follows is the sewer. Another thing I hear about is Ada Hayden. I think Mr. Huey just talked about the septic systems, state of the art. We are, in fact, I took a look at the boundaries map, and we are just inside the west edge of the Ada Hayden watershed. But we're a mile and a half away. The systems work well. I think it's better to use those than pumping it into the Skunk River. Another one I heard was it would be convenient to do it now instead of later. Just do it with the Borgmeyer farm. I just don't think we have good reasons to proceed with this annexation. And you all got an email from me yesterday, and I gave you some reasons, some thoughts I had. Another thought I had, because I lay awake at night thinking about this stuff. Another thought I had last night was I remember an old phrase, let's refer this back to staff for more study. Well, I don't think any of you have any idea what this is going to cause if we start tearing up streets, sidewalks, driveways, and who's paying for it? Well, the owners are. I don't think you have any idea what this is going to cost. So my proposal would be, well, first of all, I'd rather you just said, no, let's not do this annexation now. But if you decide that you think it should be, then I'd like to see, let's refer it back to staff for some study and come up with some costs. Let's come up with a route that we're going to use and some costs. And then you can think about that, because I don't think you have any idea what this is going to cost and how much disturbance it will be. So I hope you accept my apology, and thank you for listening. And I would encourage you to vote no on item 49.
Thank you, and apology accepted.
Hello, my name's Dr. Randy Braden, and I talked to you a couple weeks ago too, and I appreciate the council taking time to hear us out. That's important, and I really appreciate that. And I want to highlight Tim Garten, because he's received more than my allotment of emails, and he has so graciously, and I mean that, replied and tried to help me understand this. One of the main points he made, it's up to us to do due diligence to look at the title opinion and the abstract. Now, I picked up my abstract at closing. The one that shares the townhome went 5 days later to pick his up. And so I also want you to know that I've looked at some townhomes in Boone, and part of that is I was principal there for 8 years, and I have so many parents of kids that were in my building. Now that's going on 25 years ago, but they're still around there, and it's on Cedar Point Golf Club. So I had a realtor come and talk to me today who happens to represent one of the Irons Court folks. And he said 99.9% of the buyers don't do what Tim told me I should be doing. And that is on me, not you. And also, probably none of you were here when this agreement was made, and neither was any of the board members at the, maybe some of you were, but I don't think any of the board members at the country club were, so it's not worth hassling you or them with that. But I said to him, now when I list my townhome, what's my strategy? And he said, disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. Now I want to tell you, I didn't read the abstract until I got it. But the person that was the seller was also the developer and did not disclose any of this to us, okay? Now, that's still my fault, because I really agree. Tim enlightened me of what my responsibility was, and I agree with that. But we were not given that, and I bet most of us that bought those townhomes didn't have that clue until we were already there. And he said, we were talking about, and we got a beautiful townhome. And I want to tell you that I love Boone, but I've lived here 6 years now. My last degree was from Iowa State, and I have a lot of love for Ames too. So it's none of that. But he said our townhomes, because of the lifestyle that we offer, if I walk slowly, I can get to the pool in 2 minutes. I can get to the tennis and pickleball courts in 30 seconds. Our HOA offers a lot of nice perks. And so our townhomes would be highly sought after for the lifestyle that we can provide. And then he said, except there's so much uncertainty, and with the house they're selling, they don't know what to tell them. They can be truthful and say, we don't know. And so I'm asking you this. I know now that there's a state law if you come within 200 feet, but you as a council have the power to exempt that, I'm sure. I better look that up or talk to Tim again, but I bet you have the power to exempt us. And the second thing has been already rehashed, and that is why the urgency? Why do it this fast? The Irons Court demographics, a higher percentage of those folks are working. Our Irons Way folks, we probably have 2 or 3 or 4 that might be still working. The rest of us are fully retired, depending on fixed income and whatever we've been able to save and invest. And a 20 to 30 or up to 50, as Lee said, puts a real height of anxiety into all of us because we didn't really expect that. And so, again, I want to close. You could exempt us. When I lived at Holiday Lake in Brooklyn, I lived there 17 years. I had a septic that was treated the water, discharged it into Holiday Lake. And they said I could drink out of that, but I didn't take them up on that. But I would say that those systems that we have are quality. And I think a good compromise, of course, I think you could exempt us. But put this off until that development's there. I don't see a reason why it has to be hurried to have us hook on and be assessed. That gives us a little more, if you're not going to exempt, gives us a little more time to plan how we're going to do this. But at any rate, thank you very much for letting us. It's important that we can tell you how we feel, and we know you're put in a pretty tough spot. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy. Anybody else? All right, close public comment.
So Kelly, we've heard from a few people saying, put this off until we have the development and we have more certainty as to costs, which rely on the development of the Borgmeyer property. Has anything changed for our needs for the number of agreeing parcels if we put this off? We now have signatures from a number of consenting properties. So I'm just wondering what changed with the picture, if anything.
I think it would depend on how long you delay. So by agreement, it's an irrevocable offer to annex. But if the property exchanges hands, I'm not sure what that means. Like the longer it sits on our desk, I don't know at what point that signature's stale. The board changes for the country club. Is it authorized still? I'm not 100% sure. You clearly have some discretion to pause or wait based on what we've received because it's irrevocable from the way the agreement is written once it's submitted. I want to give a little bit better explanation of timeline though. If you accept this tonight and we proceed with an 80-20 annexation, we can't formally begin the annexation process until Borgmeyer is approved by the state. Once you split the two apart, I need contiguous property to annex the area in blue. I do not have that until the red area is in the city. So that means the official process to annex would not begin until closer to the end of the year. So the property is going through the hearing process and going to the State City Development Board. That means they wouldn't officially be in the city until 2026 sometime in probably the spring of 2026. If you don't tell me to delay anything, that's going to be the timeline. And we've already said that we would come back this summer to give you some more information about the sewer independent of the annexation timeline. It just so happens because this got split, you'll actually have the sewer information that we can generate probably before we even initiate the process, but definitely before you ever have a hearing to complete the annexation.
Other questions?
Kelly, we've talked about this several times, but I'm not sure we framed it exactly like this. And I want to sort of run a little bit off Gloria's question. So just walk us through the situation that if we annex this property, but we exempted the property owners from tying into the septic system, sorry, the sewer system. Are there downsides for the city on that? Walk us through your take on that.
So I think the original intent, which I think is a pretty consistent public policy, that a municipal sanitary sewer system is the best way to treat effluent from single-family homes. When we approved this project, we said, we can't get sewer to you now. What can you do to mitigate the typical septic system condition while we wait for sanitary sewer to get to the property? So the offer was these Advantech systems. They're not necessarily the most common thing that are used. They are a higher cost, more advanced system. We agreed it had a better performance level related to phosphorus in the effluent than a standard septic system. So the city council agreed to have that. I think the city viewed that as interim, whether that's for 10 to 25 years, I don't know. But I knew that when we approved it, it was viewed as this is the best measure available at that time until sanitary sewer could be brought to the project. And none of us knew in 2014 when this would actually happen.
So that was a very good history of this. There may be some people that are catching this for the first time, but I'm going to ask my question again, because I'm not sure I got the answer. So we've had situations in Ames where, in South Ames, where people in our city limits had septic systems and sky didn't fall. They just had to deal with the septic. And eventually, I think all of those in South Ames, I think they've now all tied in. Am I right about that?
I would not know.
Okay.
We don't administer septic systems in the city. It's totally overseen by the county.
Yeah, there was at one time. I don't know if they've all tied in. But what I'm asking specifically, is there any kind of technical reason why in the deployment of infrastructure that we have to have those properties tying into our system? Could we exempt?
It's two different questions. Our city standard is all new properties shall be developed and connect to a sanitary sewer system. So the basic answer is you must, because that's the city expectation. Your second part of the question is, could I waive the standard for somebody? That's different.
No, I apologize. So I'm looking at this from an engineering perspective. So as we think about the deployment of infrastructure north, we're going to continue growing north. And so as we deploy infrastructure, if these properties did not tie into our system, is there a downside from a planning perspective? I don't know the answer to that.
It's not planning. It's the ecological conditions of the watershed that are driving this at this point. You are correct that a septic system meets health code requirements. That's required. The county oversees that, right? You have to inspect the system, make sure it's operating well so it's healthy. Our concern as the city on why we are definitely focused on this is the particulate matter of the phosphorus is the pollutant of concern for us in relation to the water quality in Ada Hayden. It's not that the water is polluted and undrinkable or something like that. It's just about the water quality of Ada Hayden with a higher amount of phosphorus loading from septic systems versus having that completely removed from the watershed and going into our sewer system and then being treated at a water treatment plant, at a sewer treatment plant.
So I don't hear that as a major issue, because when we're taking that land out of agricultural production, that's the best thing we could do.
But this wasn't agricultural production.
I understand.
Okay.
But and I think you've answered my question. I appreciate that. So from a technical perspective, we could continue deploying infrastructure north and all around this. And the fact that this is in essence a bit of an island in terms of tying into our septic, that could work. My second question is do we have the ability as a council to exempt property from our code? Could we do that? to your knowledge?
Yeah, the subdivision code, just like you did on the sidewalk waiver on the last one, it's it's chapter 23 of the subdivision code that dictates all infrastructure improvements. Under the waiver criteria, council could waive a particular standard if they so choose.
How about the 200-foot rule?
The 200-foot rule you cannot waive. The indirect way to deal with that is not require the sewer to be built, but once it's built, you cannot waive that rule. That's a state law.
So
That's a bigger problem.
So are you saying that if there was not sanitary sewer, excuse me, within 200 feet of a radius from the southeast corner of that property, they could continue and there's no violation of state law? Is that right?
It's my understanding, yes.
Technically, right?
From the building that generates the wastewater, not the property.
Oh, so it's
It's even more constrained. It's 200 feet from the building, not the property line.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is that I know that there's no design yet in terms of how the utilities are going to be deployed.
There's an easement. There's an easement that exists through the subdivision. It may not be the best alignment.
I'm saying in Borgmeyer. I'm saying.
Oh, in Borgmeyer.
How, I mean, do you know, as a developer, are they going to work from the south?
So the issue is the main sewer service has to come from the east, from Hyde Avenue.
Right.
In all likelihood, it's going to end up at the northeast corner of the Borgmeyer property as the lowest point for that property. And the majority of that site should be connected through some extension from that northeast corner. Is it possible a portion of the site in the south may connect through Northridge Heights? Maybe. But the majority of the site's going to be on that north sewer line extension.
I'm sorry, I blanked out, I think. So along the north property line of Borgmeyer is where the sanitary sewer will be run from Hyde, is that correct?
It'll get under the tracks near that northeast corner. And then
Right.
from there, the developer would take that into the development to follow their development plan to serve the majority of the site.
And that's all yet to be determined, but that could take quite some,
That's what we don't know. So when we say we need to talk to them, there's different concepts about, it's a big cost to extend to the west, but maybe that's the desirable area to start. Maybe it's being built in two directions and meet in the middle. That's an issue that the developer will have to look at.
yeah. I know this may be teasing or chasing our tail, but I was just thinking that from a standpoint of maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10 years before, I don't know how fast they're going to build that up. But if there's
Yeah, I just hesitate to say it's going to be 10 years just because it looks like it's far away. It could be in year 2 if that's the most viable economic return on the property.
Got it.
So that's information that we may understand better this summer. We're going through that annexation process. You're going to have some conversations and then possibly at the next meeting even to talk about the schedule and requests for assistance for that project, which leads to timing. That sewer trunk line, if it's highly likely that you're asked to do that as a city project because it's off-site and coordinates multiple properties just to get to the railroad tracks, you may be able to construct that in 2026. But after that, I don't think we can give you any more information about how long it's going to take to get further west than the railroad tracks.
Yep. Thank you.
Could you talk once more about the potential for a special assessment? I'm hearing a lot of people throw out, a $30,000 at once cost, and I think there is an option that we could spread this out over time.
So we don't know the costs, but whatever that is, the city council can create a schedule for repayment over time. And I'd say typically we would look at a 10-year schedule to do that. And what happens is there's usually an interest rate attached to it because it's being paid off over time, but it's paid with your taxes is how it gets collected.
But that would just be on private property, public property, right? That wouldn't be the connection to the person's house. Is that correct?
The special assessment would be for the public infrastructure.
Right.
The service from the public main into your house would be a private cost.
But I'm also hearing that part of that cost, or maybe a large part of that cost, is the landscaping and replacement of the lawns and that sort of thing that would occur with removal of the septic system, which we don't know yet whether the county would require that because it's their decision, right? I have a question, Amelia. Can you go back to the sewer map? I just want to make sure I understand this. So when we're talking about the 200-foot rule, if the sewer line is built across the Borgmeyer property, does each successive property on Irons Way get added in as the neighbor connects? Is that, I'm trying to figure out where 200 feet is. Are all those houses within 200 feet if it goes all the way to the end? Or are we just talking about the first couple and then it's a domino effect?
You see, it's a little hard to read. There's a green line that goes all the way up Irons to the north end of Irons Way.
Okay.
So there is an easement in the subdivision that shows a route for a sanitary sewer to be extended. I believe every home is within 200 feet of that. If it's not, your agreement still would require them to connect. That would be the only discretion you have. If they were over 200 feet, your agreement could say you don't have to. If you're within 200, you don't have that discretion as far as I know.
But then, so it's not that once someone connects, the next person is next to the sewer line. We're just really talking about
because it's going to be
the front
built all
line.
at once. It can't really
Okay.
be built incrementally. I mean, I guess you could build half of it, but
I don't know why we
I mean,
want to.
it
but
seems even more expensive to do it that way.
Yeah.
So Kelly, I'm inclined to go forward with alternative one and start this process of annexation. But could we not at the same time, I'm very interested in making a follow-up motion, asking staff, because I think there's too many moving parts tonight to resolve this around the dais. But I would like to get more information about the implications of exempting all of this property from tying in to the sewer. Now, I need to navigate. I need help navigating state requirements, which we can't waive, but to the degree we can waive. And let me explain the why behind the what. So, if I had a crystal ball, I would never have supported this 10 years ago when we put this in place, or 11 years ago, whatever it was, because of what's happened. And our worst fears have happened. And so, but it's water under the bridge at this point. We are where we are. And if we can find a way to create a win-win situation where annexation goes forward for the good of the community, that I can hang my hat on. For the good of the community, we need to annex that property. That is clear to me. But what's not clear to me is that do those people, and this is a point that they made tonight, do these people out there care about those properties tying into the sewer? And I'm not convinced that they care. I'm not convinced that I care. So if there was a way to exempt those properties and allow them to continue to use the septic system, why not do that? So that's my question is, could I come back afterwards? And I don't know what the council will do with that, but that's my interest tonight.
I guess I would ask a question. I already have direction to explore the special assessment project. Is this to preempt that and to say, don't even do it anymore? Like, I already have direction, so I'm kind of looking at the council of, is there an alternative motion? What does that do with the direction I already have?
I think that's a very fair question. Sometimes we have to do more than one thing at a time. And I think in order to make an informed decision, I think it is very reasonable that we would look at the special assessment approach. But I think it's also very reasonable to say, what if we just don't do it at all?
Well, I would offer, if you're not going to do it, I would not want to use our resources on the conceptual design work that Public Works will have to do.
Fair enough.
So I'm fine doing the conceptual work as directed and telling you what that means, which is what I assumed we were doing anyways. But if you really are not interested in the sewer extension project and you're willing to go to the extent to amend the development agreement because that's going to be the cloud that hangs over all of this forever, is it is always at the city council's discretion to mandate that each of these properties construct and connect to a sanitary sewer.
Absolutely. And you said that very nicely, and I agree with everything you've said. And this would result in an amendment to the development agreement to remove that cloud. I don't know. I don't want a pound of flesh from these people. If you can help me understand that there's a public good, then we'll hold their feet to the fire. But without that,
sewer service is, again, the gold standard of utility service for all homes in Ames.
I understand that, but this is a unique.
Especially within the
this-
watershed of Ames.
This is a
We
unique.
want to do
So
something
I think
if
I
they're
think I think we're getting a little out
let's-
of the range here, because we're going to give you way more information than you have today. You said it yourself. We do not
Right.
have adequate information to really make any decisions other than to proceed or not proceed with the annexation. When we come back with cost estimates and timing information, there's an interim option of what I think you don't have to mandate connection on day one, even though you have the authority to do that. There might be an interim option that lets people play out the life of their system and then connect. I think it kind of, when your system's dead and you got to replace it, the cost of the sewer connection is not going to seem out of line. It's when you just built your house and you spent $25,000 that it seems absurd to have to immediately do that. I don't think anybody at this table was expecting immediate connection, but we have not gotten that far because we have not responded to your last motion in March to give you the information on timing and cost that you asked.
All right, let's.
Well, if I could, Mayor, I appreciate that, and that's a piece that I had not considered. So, I'm going to move alternative one, but then I'll come back and look at both a full exemption. But I like this idea of an incremental, that as the systems reach their end of their life, then they could look at tying in. That's a common sense resolution.
Is there a second to motion?
Second.
All right. Any questions on the motion? Those in favor of the motion, let's see here. Do a roll call.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
All right, Tim. What?
Yeah. And so this is a bit of a unique thing. So I'm open to refinement on the wording of this. But I would move that we direct staff to bring us back a memo that explores the pros and cons of two things. One, an exemption of these properties from tying in to our sewer system. And secondly, the option of an incremental approach where the property owners would tie in either at the end of the life of their septic or any other time that they choose to.
All right, is there a second?
My only
Because they
question
might,
is that to be in advance of or concurrent with the other information we owe you already?
that's fair. I think you made a good point that because this is a threshold question, it would be in advance of, there's no urgency on that other one anyway. This would be in advance of that other motion. I don't know what council would be interested in.
I'm going to second so we can talk.
Yeah, thank you.
Wouldn't it make sense to get that after we get all of the other information?
So I think we have time at this point, so I'm not going to fall on my sword over this.
Well, your motion said in advance of.
Yeah.
And I'm open to suggestion on this, but I think Kelly makes a good point that if the council believed that there was an alternative where either we exempt the properties altogether or we look at some incremental approach, then looking at a special assessment really doesn't matter at that point.
Aren't they already looking at the incremental approach?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the motion
I'm
was timing and cost. So we assumed that timing was a piece of that. I don't think it was articulated as defined as what Tim just said right now. It was more broad.
And I'm not opposed, I think, to thinking through, once we've already got the information that we've already asked staff to bring back to us, if we find that that's not sufficient, then I guess I don't mind investigating some of these questions. But I will, for this particular motion, I'll vote no, because I want the original batch of information we asked staff for to come back first. And I do think we have to keep in mind how many other properties in the city have had septics that we have forced them to abandon and tie into sewer when their septics failed, and we haven't offered any of them exemptions. So I would want to think about that before I support a motion like this.
Well,
So
With respectfully, that's not completely true. We've annexed properties in South Ames, and I apologize, I didn't come prepared to give examples, but we have done that. So we've got time in our hands. Nothing is going to happen. I'm fine with going forward with just looking at the incremental approach.
All
But
right, so read the motion, please.
Look, I'll just make this easy, Mayor. I'll just withdraw the motion.
No,
it's okay. I withdraw the motion.
And I think we can revisit at some point. I'm not saying no entirely, but I think the original information we asked staff for is valuable.
Okay.
Can I just ask for clarification with this discussion? I thought that Kelly told us we couldn't exempt people if they were within 200 feet by state law. Isn't that right?
Right. But indirectly, you can
You can make
choose
it so
not
it
to
never
build the
comes within
main,
the-
which doesn't trigger the standard.
Right.
So,
Or can't you also cite the main in a different place?
Yeah.
well, you're going to site it where it's functional for the homes. You're not going to make it.
I understand that, but that's what we have to
On-
look at.
on
Is it
Borgmeyer.
possible to route a sanitary sewer line that won't come within 200 feet of the subdivision, the houses?
Well,
We haven't
no-
investigated it yet before you.
Right. Yeah. Well, my answer would be no, because the subdivision code requires Borgmeyer to take the sewer through the extent of the property to the north. So unless we waived our normal development standard and arbitrarily cut it off in the Borgmeyer property, it will eventually get to the north by our subdivision code. It's the extension from there that's at the complete discretion of council.
That's why we need time to show you all this. Right?
Yeah, is there any other motions? You have what you need?
Yeah, we will be coming back with more information about cost and timing. Timing is more than just the Borgmeyer extension. It's more about all the elements of timing in terms of how a special assessment can work and everything else. So I think we'll have a complete picture for you when we come back sometime this summer.
Okay.
And
Thank
again, we need to talk to the county and see what their position is.
We will.
Why we can't just,
Leave them, fill them in, right?
this might be an unusual case that it's allowed. I don't know yet.
All right. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll move on to item number 50.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, we'll move on to item number 50. Kelly, you.
I'll kick this off. So tonight, we're here in response to action from council all the way back in last summer for this property that I have up on the screen. It's the leftover right-of-way for a once planned Harrison Road extension that's not going to happen. And last summer, you asked staff to prepare an RFP to look at development of ownership housing 5 to 12 units. We were unsuccessful in securing a proposal. Earlier this year, Brenda was able to come forward and you entered into an MOU authorizing her to try to find a development entity for the property. So tonight we're bringing forward the Keystone Equity Group proposal for City Council to look at. The action that we are looking for is a direction to have a date of hearing for the eventual sale of this property. So the idea is that if you're comfortable with the concept as presented, there's a number of steps left to actually develop the property. But the first one is to have council endorse an option agreement for purchase of the property, which then gives confidence to the Keystone Equity Group to move ahead with a workforce housing tax credit project application, as well as the subdivision and development plans that are necessary to build the project. So we have them here to present the concept to you. What you see on the screen is a private street concept that has 12 units on it, 2 different models of homes. And they are planned to be consistent with the state workforce housing tax credit program, which is targeted at workforce housing, more moderately priced homes. And with that, I'd take any questions from council, or we can hand it over to the development team.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. Brenda Dreyer with the Ames Regional Economic Alliance. I'm joined this evening by JD Albright, who's one of the partners and key folks within the Keystone Equity Group. And I'll talk a little bit more about them here as we move through the overview that we're proposing for you. I've provided you a handout and we have copies available for folks that are joining us here in the audience if they'd like to follow along. So we're proposing that the name of this neighborhood be called Harrison Court. Within your packet and also on the big board, you're going to see the layout that we're proposing, as well as some landscaping within the neighborhood of Harrison Court. The one thing that I would tell you that's been a little bit of a fluid situation is understanding the drainage requirement. And I applaud Kelly's recommendation to really start kind of get an initial feedback from his team regarding things on this concept that would slow down discussions. And we believe that there is a detention plan that we'll be able to utilize. And while I know you were targeting 5 to 12 units, if there's a way within the guidelines of the community development process, I'd like to propose that we also do an additional 2 units. So if we can move it from 12 to 14 and still have quite a bit of green space at the entrance to the neighborhood. As we move through discussions, I think that's great for folks looking to own a home within Ames. So back to the overview. Again, we're looking at 12. It could be 14, and again, it would just mirror both sides of that street. So it'd be the addition of one more twin home. These would be owner occupied. I don't want you to get distracted by the fact that it says multifamily. JD and I were talking about that. That's confusing, I think, as we move through the state process, and I should have caught it sooner, but we are talking only about owner occupied. These will be homes that will be for sale, and they must be a primary residence. About Keystone Equity, they've dabbled in a couple homes here in the community, and it's quite a history how I came to know JD and his partner KB. But JD has been building homes in the Des Moines metro area since 2017. He's a 3rd generation builder and developer. He's got lots of stories about working for his dad and grandfather. He's built more than 500 homes in over 30 years in his construction business. He met up with his partner KB, who was a graduate of Drake University, licensed real estate agent in the Remax Precision agency down in Des Moines. I would tell you he's probably one of the smartest people I've ever had a chance to work with. And together, you're pretty smart too, JD, but together they've developed more than 175 lots and built more than 65 homes. And one of the challenges we had, I think, with your initial RFP and just even in our organization's work to try to find the right developer is it's very difficult to find folks that are interested in doing both infrastructure and building homes. And so I'm grateful that our paths crossed, and is actually doing work in some of our other Story County communities as well. We anticipate the infrastructure costs related to connection to city services and the development of the private street at around $440,000. Might as well cut right to the chase that the request will be that the funds be made available, the land be made available at $1. And really the importance about that you're going to see here real soon. So we're proposing an attached product, again, to try to control the price. We're looking at both 3 plexes, which are at the rear of the subdivision, so 3 attached and 2 of those. Again, you can see a larger drawing of those. That 3-bedroom would include a 1.5 baths, square footage of 1,148 square feet, a single garage, and an unfinished basement. Concrete patio, they'll include the stove, the microwave, and the dishwasher. And they're projecting the sale price on that particular for each one of those at $245,000. I've had an opportunity to actually see a neighborhood similar to this that Keystone Equity did in DeSoto. They have experience in doing I saw it right away and I said, that's Harrison. And so I've had an opportunity to walk through their homes and appreciate wide stairwells down to the basement, carpet that's finished into the unfinished areas. So as you go by the stairwell, you don't even know that it's not finished. Keystone Equity is actually building 3 homes in Nevada. They've got a foundation also poured here in Kauai. So at some point in time, if you desire, we'll be able to walk you through an actual product. So the other one that we're proposing on the side street to that T is a twin home product. So both the threeplex and the twin home, you can see, are 2-story. Again, being sensitive to really generally the look in the neighborhood. So these will be, hopefully, if all goes and we can work this out within the city standards, we'll have 8 units available in twin home. These are 2.5 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms with square footage just shy of 1,500. There'll be a double garage, an unfinished basement, again, concrete patio, same appliances, and we're projecting a sale price under 300 at 274.9. Your partnership in this subdivision and neighborhood and those prices are really predicated on a couple things: that land at $1 and successful workforce housing tax credits from the state of Iowa. Dan and I will both agree that we feel really strongly that this will be a strong application with the state. I've told JD that and his partner KB. So it's key. So we need those 2 things to align to really keep these under 300,000. We'll do a planned unit development. One of the things that came up, because that is a private street, and considering affordability, talked with JD, I think we're looking at $450 for an annual fee for snow removal. And really, we've got minimal grass we're going to need to take care of. We'll put restrictive covenants in place. And again, I would stress to you that these will need to be primary residences, and that will be covered under the covenant. So these will not be seasonal homes. These won't be opportunities for a person to buy both sides and rent one out. It will be owner occupied, all units. So timeline wise, the goal would be is that we can keep moving things along with you all. And again, I know this is aggressive on both sides. We'll need the city staff as well as the developers to make sure they're reacting to each other's requirements and requests to move this through this summer through the city development process. That's why I really appreciated Kelly's advice on let's get a few eyes on this before we get too far along. We would submit the workforce housing tax credit application on or before June 10th, and we must have control of the site. That doesn't mean Keystone Equity needs to own it. It does mean they need a agreement to purchase signed by both the city and them for the property in order for us to submit. Again, we will utilize the reduced cost of the land and the abatement of the city as part of our local match, which again will create a really strong application. And I would tell you on the Nevada project, JD and KB beat me even on a few of the things I needed to do on my end. But if all goes as planned and we have the blessing of the city, we'll begin infrastructure work hopefully late summer. And we can see our first homes being constructed, if all goes as planned, by fall. We'll get basements in and start seeing homes go up in the fall. And hopefully late spring, ready for occupancy. And so again, I'm so appreciative. JD came up tonight. He said, "This is weird, Brenda. I usually do all the talking." And I said, so I said, "I gotcha. I've spent so much time." So I'd surely welcome any questions you have for me from the economic development team that's really been involved in representing this property. We're very excited. I'm excited about, I only wish it was more, but I feel like we're going to get a chance. It'll be a great partnership project. It'll be something all of us can be really proud of and tell people about, and then hopefully replicate that in other parts of the community. But again, I'm so grateful that actually I would tell you Keystone Equity is doing a subdivision project in Roland, and that's how I found them. So I heard that they were doing a discussion, and so they're doing a subdivision in Roland, building 3 homes, spec homes for us on some lots. In Nevada. Yeah, but you talk, yep.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council. We actually, land development, home buildings, our expertise. We're in 7 different cities right now. Roland being one of them in Story County, that we have a 50-lot overall development campaign going. We'll probably go ahead and phase that to be realistic to the market and do 25 lots first phase there. Nevada, we have 3 homes as indicated, and we're looking to do more in Nevada as more opportunities arise. I mean, land opportunities. We have a couple homes going just on some infill lots in Ames. We also have another 25 lots down in Woodward. We own about 48 acres in DeSoto. We're on our 3rd phase there. So that's about 75 homes total in DeSoto. The common denominator, though, with Keystone Equity Group is we try to stay in the more smaller rural type community. Multiple reasons. We enjoy working with people like Kelly in the smaller community, but we also can increase the affordability piece. If we stay in the go-go's of Waukee, Ankeny, West Des Moines, the price just goes up. Our expertise has always been affordable housing, something that your police officers, school teachers, people can afford. So that's why we kind of get drawn to the communities to which we build and develop in. When this opportunity came, it seemed to be a natural, because a lot of your big developers are going to come in and they're going to want a lot more acreage in the big picture, whereas we'll come in, we'll do 50-acre developments in DeSoto, for example. Purchase 50 acres. We only put in about 25 lots each phase. So we just keep going as the market conditions allow. We do have the financial resource that I want to make clear to do anything that we set out to do. So when we buy onto a project and we show interest organizationally, we have the financial means to be able to act in accordance. I think that's a pretty important piece. If you don't have the financial means to be able to move, then it wouldn't deemed successful. So we're really excited about this. I think it's going to be a great infill, if you will, to the community. The increased affordability piece, I think, is going to be awfully exciting to the city of Ames, along with the other 6 communities that we're actually doing business in. We don't, quite frankly, ever get them really past trim or paint stage before all our units are historically sold. So we're lucky like that. My partner KB, as she mentioned, he gets nervous. He's ultra conservative. He goes, I'm getting a little nervous. That one hasn't sold yet. I go, it's not done yet. And we usually get them sold. We're fortunate in that area. One thing that I think makes sense to mention as well that Brenda didn't mention is if we can move this thing forward, we anticipate doing all 14 units at the same time. So we're not going to come in, do one duplex and keep our fingers crossed that it sells. We have utmost confidence in the market condition of Ames, Iowa. We're going to come in and we'll do all 12 units at the same time. We feel confident in the market conditions to be able to put that financial step forward. We also feel as though it's going to be very important to the residents out there too. All units getting done at the same time. So someone that purchases a unit out there doesn't have to worry about dump trucks and, concrete mixers going through. So you sod it all, you complete it all in one swing. And I think that's important too, to do all units at the same time. And then just to reiterate up above there, we've got a landscape buffer indicated on our plan to kind of buffer from adjacent neighborhoods, even though we're very proud of ours. Any questions that you might have for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Just a couple. So I'm interested in the pricing, love the numbers I'm seeing, but there's no guarantee, right, that 245 and 274, I mean, let's say you start having bidding wars, there isn't anything like this on the market. So I could easily see there being multiple offers and you're bidding this up, and now we're looking at over 300 for both of them. So help me understand your confidence that these will actually be selling for that. I mean, we're not capping the purchase price.
We're not capping the purchase price. What we're doing though is we're really leveraging our experience in other communities. So I have this product currently under construction this evening as we speak, and a lot of the same conditions in terms of city participation, I might add. In the other cities, we're doing tax increment financing packages and so forth, city provided incentives. So we're not.
But respectfully, I don't mean to interrupt, but no disrespect to DeSoto. DeSoto is not Ames.
Correct. Yeah.
So help me understand, again, I'm going to stay with this question, why we think that this is going to be, this I think is aspirational. How do we know that's where the price is going to be?
I think as a developer, we're making that commitment to the city. And we're saying that just because the market conditions could bear 325,000, we're looking for single buyers, people that don't necessarily have dual incomes to be able to qualify to turn the product. I think that is also, and then we also could potentially have mortgage limits depending on the financing that we utilize that you can't increase. Finally, the last point would be appraisals. When you're talking about 1,100 square foot unit, I appreciate what you're saying as far as bid up, charge more, developer builder makes more. But I think the market will adjust in terms of appraisal due to the square foot is the way I feel about that.
And then I had a question on the materials. So you're building this house very aggressively, price-wise. Is there any difference in terms of the construction materials? I mean, this is more a John question than I should be asking this question, but any difference? We've had some developers in years past where they've built houses where they've compromised on the quality of the building materials.
Mm-hmm.
And so any difference here between a house built here versus other parts of the community?
No, we do 2x4 exterior wall construction, but we also bump it up to what's called an R15 high density bat. So we could typically do a R13, we do an R15, so that's an increased efficiency in the exterior walls. We do an R49 attic insulation, though, and then our windows that we use are Pella. So there's no quality sacrifice on that, the exterior building envelope. And then quite to the contrary, on all the main levels, we're doing full LVP flooring throughout the first, for the main level. The only carpet you would have is going upstairs and then the hallway and the bedrooms upstairs. So just to the opposite of what you're indicating in terms of cost. Another thing is on the trim millwork, we're doing interior trim packages, which includes jam extensions, casing around the windows, white woodwork, white cabinets, painted walls. So to answer your question in short, there is no quality sacrifice.
That's beautiful.
So I'll jump in a little bit too, JD. One thing I would tell you, and one of the reasons I believe we got into the partnership together is so I'd have the opportunity, and our team at the Alliance would have an opportunity to vet developers, specifically those from outside of town. And so number one, I would assure you that I have checked into their ability to do a number of projects here in Story County. I've gotten to know their banker pretty well because Nevada Economic Development is actually providing the lots over in Nevada for the homes. So I would tell you that we've dug into that and checked that. I would also tell you that I've walked through the homes, and I didn't let just my eyes, who like to see things that look pretty from afar. I also drug a banker with me and asked them to provide me any feedback that they felt regarding quality or any challenges in the ability to write a loan or get a home appraised. So I would tell you that. And that's the other great thing is that at some point in time, we're going to be able to walk through the homes over in Nevada and showcase a lot of the things now that while they're not an attached product, but it is JD overseeing the
And
construction.
same
Yeah,
amenities on the
30.
single family
Yeah.
to the townhouses. So what we do in
Yes.
fairness in our single family, the only difference is these are attached, still main level LVPs, still the same quality of our single family.
And one more thing I'd add, Tim, too, is keep in mind that we are submitting this for a workforce housing tax credit application. I will disclose in the state application where these are going to be sold at. And so while they don't care who we sell to, we will disclose that they're for owner occupied primary residence, again, from a scoring standpoint. They are going to wonder where it went on the market at, and will need to comply with what we've identified within reason in the application, Tim. So another check and balance that I might add that will help control and again, velocity is everything. If the best case scenario is this is so popular, and we're all shuffling people around to try waiting lists to try to move them into the homes.
Well, I appreciate both comments on the quality of the product. Sounds like everybody's done their due diligence. Almost done. So are you going to have an HOA then for maintenance of the common space?
We're going to have an HOA for the private streets. Excuse me. We're going to have an HOA for the private streets and then the mowing of the entrance and then any applicable insurance. What we don't want to do though is we don't want to get the HOA too over the top expensive when you start talking about roof replacements, siding replacements like that. So we'll do a fee simple title or a party wall deed is what we're doing in the other communities. So we still have exterior maintenance, which is necessary, and that's the street mowing and insurance. I've had a great success with the families that are purchasing these. They mow their yards themselves. They don't have to include that in an association due. Same thing with shoveling their driveways. They can handle that themselves. And if they wanted to hire it out, they could. But I don't want to overburden buyers with expensive association dues.
And so maybe I'm misunderstanding. So an owner is going to own their particular unit.
They're going to own their particular unit and they're going to own the yard from front to back.
So there's no lot line shown here. These will be single family attached units with their own land.
I see.
So,
and that part
so it's
was
a townhome that'll have a property line going through the wall, splitting.
Got it.
Yeah,
perfect.
This right here, so on and so forth.
That's helpful because it looked just in this schematic that there would be a common area. And so then I'm wondering, is there an HOA to maintain that?
Yeah, no, they'll own their own, and thanks Kelly for the backup there. They'll own their own yard front to back.
Okay. And then Kelly, my last question is for you. I just think it's important when we do this. This is a little bit unique in that we're not going through an RFP to select this contractor. And could you just remind us why we're not doing that in this case?
Well, you did issue an RFP. We just didn't get any proposals in the time frame. We requested them last July. So we came back to you and said we might have interest outside of that time period through Brenda, and you entered into the MOU to try to really achieve what the RFP was trying to do last year. We just didn't issue a new RFP because we went through that process once and we did not find an interested party.
Great. I just wanted to make sure we covered that again. Thank you. Thanks for the answers.
Other questions?
Brenda, how long are the restrictive covenants required to be to comply with workforce housing tax credit?
That's really a fairly short compliance period, Gloria. It's really 3 to 5 years only. But again, I think longer term, from a community standpoint, we want to make sure that we're maintaining these as owner occupied residences. That's been your goal and objective. And I feel like as we move through that process, while you're not going to have much to do with them, that'll really fall on the developer. We'll need to be setting clear expectations that that's our plan.
They can be 21 years, but they can be renewed.
There you go. It's good to have an attorney on the council.
Well, that's a good question, really good question. And if the land's provided for $1,
Mhm.
it seems there'd be some opportunities to make sure that these, because I can just see, parents would just love to gobble these up for university students. And the goal is to be single family owner occupied homes.
Lots of opportunities all
So
by
that'd be
one
by-
side. Yep. So.
How would that work out, Tim? There'd be kind of something in,
Well, we have this now. I mean, there are some HOAs that have amended their covenants to be only owner occupied for the very reason that you've said.
So we have this in Baker subdivision. We recorded on the single family lots. The city did a covenant for owner occupied.
so that'd be part and part. Does that need to be part of the motion, or is that going to
It
be
was part of your, so we don't have the option in front of you tonight. That's the next step. The MOU outlined expectations of the owner occupied, so that the option agreement will bring forward some of those elements that we expect to be ultimately recorded as covenants when the subdivision is approved and then go forward. So the owner occupied component will be an obligation to have them purchase the property for that reduced price. That'll be one of the things they have to do to be compliant with that agreement. And I was assuming it was a 21-year restriction.
I have a question for maybe Mark or Kelly can answer. Is that so? The timeline you're on would require a public hearing in 2 weeks to essentially allow them to have an agreement to purchase it in order to hit your workforce housing tax credits, right?
Correct, Mayor.
So the question is, what do you do if people come in and say, well, I'll buy that piece of property for $1? How do you tease out or parse through that? I mean, I'm trying to think
I think Mark might want to add on. I think the reason you're selling this is because you have someone that's delivering a product at a certain price participating in a state program. Absent someone else showing up with the same offer at the public hearing, I don't know that just because someone else says they'll pay $2 for it changes that your interest as the council is to see a project of this type be built.
I'm just trying to get out ahead of someone coming in and saying they object that's being sold for $1, or two is that they're going to try and provide a counter proposal.
Yeah,
I think it's a fantastic project. It's hitting the goals. Thank you, Brenda, for all the work you put into it. I'm just trying to get out ahead so we don't have a hit a brick wall in 2 weeks and say, okay, now what do we do?
And there's no requirement under state law that the council has to, offer land to the highest bidder. So we can choose. We've done that in the past. The council's done that in the past. There was a group home that was built somewhere, and that was, we had other people showing up saying, I'll buy that property and I'll pay more, but the council can decide who to sell it to and for how much.
Okay. So there's no issue with, like I said, if someone else comes in, so I'll do the same thing and I'll provide similar type of housing and I'll pay more money. One is, that's not going to be, the council has that discretion to make that decision.
Yes.
In order to hit that timeline.
Yes.
Thank you. Other questions? They talked about 12 and they talked about 14. Is there something that's still a work in progress, or
I think
what?
it really depends around the detention question.
I don't know that you can build 14 here under the zoning.
Okay.
So the 5 to 12 is what was agreed to last year by council. 13 might be possible, but eyeing it tonight, I don't think you can get to 14 under RL zoning.
So I think that's pretty easy, JD, right? I mean, I think we stick to 12. So, correct?
Yeah, that's fine with us as long as it is compliant with the city standard.
Yeah. Again, it was just wishful thinking, knowing the housing need.
Well, the more the better. I was
Yeah.
just curious. You mentioned 12, then you mentioned 14. I didn't know what was.
And the reason why we were looking at the 14 was initially when we did this concept, we had a pretty sizable on-site water retention. My civil engineer has since been in contact with the city of Ames, and they're confident in the stormwater calculations per se. So we're anticipating what's deemed water retention potentially to go away in terms of not needed. That's what the engineers are kind of going through. In saying that, we could get another duplex there. So that's the reason for the ask. Of course, when we if this thing moves to the next level and we come forward with a preliminary plat, we'll know more in terms from the engineers level on the water retention, make sure staff's comfortable with it. If that was to go away though, then we could fit another duplex right next to that. That's what makes the 14.
And the last question account, we have gotten emails from people who they want to keep it as a green space. And I appreciate the landscaping on the north side. I presume this is preliminary. You're going to do the same thing on the south side to kind of make sure that you're buffering and make people feel like they're separated. Is that correct? All right. Any other questions?
Just a quick one, only because it is next to the railroad tracks, but I imagine this would not be the first opportunity that you've had to build near tracks. So are there some special considerations then for noise within the structures that you think about?
You know, the thing is we, because they're attached units, we use thickened drywall, 5/8 drywall versus 1/2-inch drywall. So that's about what we'll do in terms of standard. I think also the price is going to actually help sell the units because of the increased affordability piece.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Open public input. Does anyone who wants to address council on this topic tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public comment.
Mayor, I would move alternative 1.
Second.
Thank you.
One of the other benefits I just want to mention, we desperately need housing at a price point where young families are able to come in. This has huge implications for our schools because our housing is reaching a point where families with school-age children just can't afford to live here. So this seems like a really great project on all kinds of levels. So thanks for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Appreciate the kind words.
Roll call.
And everybody.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
BB Hansen.
Aye.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for
Appreciate
coming.
it.
And Brenda, again, thank you for all your efforts and bringing this to fruition. All right, move on to item number 51.
So you have an initiation of an annexation. The ISU Research Park controls the parcel that is outlined here. It's about 35 acres. They also control the other quarter sections in this section. They are just not proposing to annex those at this time. It's obviously consistent with Plan 2040 to allow for expansion of the research park. The main question here is whether to proceed as an 80-20 annexation or 100% voluntary. That farmstead that is along University or 530th, I'm not sure what the name is right there. It could remain out if you so choose, but it also would be consistent with state standards for a uniform boundary to include it at this time. We're recommending to include it as an 80-20 annexation.
Questions?
The research park representatives here, if you had any questions for him as well.
All right, open up public comment. Anyone want to address council on this topic? Hearing none, we'll close public input.
I would move alternative 1.
Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Corriere.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
BB Hansen.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Wish all annexations were this easy.
Yeah. Move on to number 52, resolution approving 2025-2026 proposed annual action plan, CVG.
Vanessa's coming forward for this one. Do I need to put anything up for you?
Good evening.
Good
evening.
Oh, very good. All right. It is our annual pilgrimage here to work on our 25-26 annual action plan. And it's been quite the process. And so I have a lot of information to try to update you with so that we can hopefully move forward with getting this submitted. As you know, we annually have public forums to get feedback from the public regarding their input on our action plan. And we always base that on our five-year consolidated plan, our goals and priorities, and we go over those again. So we did have a public input session in March. We had 5 individuals attend that particular session. They're listed on your council action form. We also had, I did a survey that I sent out to it's over almost 100 people that are interested in our CDBG program. I wanted to start looking at doing more feedback through surveys. So I did the survey and asked a variety of questions, but did send it out too long because it was pretty long, so I'm gonna have to look at shortening it. But I also had that attached for your viewing pleasure and to go back and look at some of the comments that people put on that survey. So one of the things that we are doing as staff, we always go back and look at, again, our consolidated plan, our goals that we just did last year. We just did our 5-year plan and got that submitted. And then we always go back and look at those goals and priorities. We look at the activities that are eligible for the CDBG program, and we look at what our expenditures are going to be and if we're going to meet our 70% expenditure requirement over a 3-year period. So it's a lot of things that staff looks at after we get input from the public. And we know that the president signed a continuing resolution back in March, but the funding allocations have still not yet been announced. I'm hearing that hopefully that might be tomorrow. But until those allocations are announced, we cannot submit our plan, even though we came up with a budget based on our current year. That's just kind of give you an idea of what the money could look like again based on our current year funding, but it can't be submitted until we know what those new dollars are. But we can't wait anymore because the plan is actually due. It was due May 17th. It's due May 17th. But I went ahead and asked for an extension to August. I'm so glad I did because right now that there is the workforce at HUD is significantly decreased. And so having that approval in advance now hopefully will allow us to have time to get this plan done because we do have to do a 30-day comment period once the plan is written and we've determined what projects are going to be. So one of the caveats that we have to do, since we don't know the allocation, is that we have to project what we think if the allocation comes in higher than what we've used in our 24-25, or if it comes in lower, how we're going to make those adjustments without having to come back because we don't have enough time with our comment period to do that. So we've put in here that if it's higher, then we would increase our public infrastructure water and system improvement program in our low-income census tract. And also we could increase a new program we're adding, which is our public facilities rehab program for nonprofits. And I'll get to those in a few minutes for you. As outlined in the your council action forms, we've had some delays, as you might have known through some communications with HUD, that our 24-25 plan got delayed. Our 23-24 funds got delayed. So we're behind the 8 ball here because of that. So we're going to be playing catch up, hopefully. So we want to continue with the programs that we really didn't get to implement in full swing, which would be our renter affordability program. We did kick that off this past January, and we've had a lot of activity going on with that, with people applying for that. We want to institute our home buyer assistance program and get to our housing rehab program. Also, we've done a little bit of the sidewalk improvement program, and that's based on that we're currently doing a public infrastructure program for water replacement in the North Russell neighborhood, and that includes doing some sidewalks in that area. And then we have some properties that we're still maintaining the Baker subdivision until we get all the lots filled and some other 2 lots that we own. So as I mentioned earlier, we're thinking about adding a program for area nonprofits that could use to rehabilitate their facilities. We've done this program in the past, but it's been quite a while ago. And it really pertains to a few of the nonprofits who actually own their facilities. This gives them an opportunity to put new windows, handicap accessibility, if they need a roof, just an opportunity to upgrade their facilities to make sure they're still decent, safe, and sanitary, because usually they don't have the money to kind of maintain their properties. There has been an interest from several of the nonprofits that we help with that program. And since we've done it in the past, we have listed that as one additional project to do this coming year. And then we want to continue our public infrastructure improvements program in our census tract number 10, where we're expanding that to include South Riverside and South Russell streets. And we're projecting that to be about $1 million. And that we've spent a lot of time working with HUD and working with SHPO to get that area approved so that we can do this project because SHPO required us to do a reconnaissance survey of the area to make sure if there was any properties that may be of historical significance. And so we spent quite a bit of money getting that survey done. So we'd like to continue with that project. And so we're basing revenue again on the 24-25 allocation of $534,122. And we're looking at program income. We have 3 Habitat homes that will be selling after the first of the year in July that we've projected that sale. And also sale of hopefully 5 of our 11 market rate lots in the Baker subdivision. We did have those lots appraised earlier this year, and the average lot price was about $74,000. And so if we totaled 5 lots, that would just be over $374,000. And then, of course, we're projecting our rollover balance of about $1 million. And that, again, that's accumulation of our 23 money that we didn't get till late and our 24 money that we got late. And so with that higher balance, we did not meet our timeliness test this year. And that was hard. But anyway, we're moving forward, and we're projecting to do infrastructure. That's one of the biggest projects that we can do that will help us spend our funds down. But it's not just anywhere, it's in our low-income census tracts. So we're benefiting our low-income households, which helps us meet our 70% goal. And so we don't want to miss another timeliness test with everything that's happening on the federal level. We just don't know what would happen if we don't meet that test. So that's why we're prioritizing our public infrastructure improvements in that census tract. So that kind of talks about our CDBG program. Do you have any questions before I go to our home program?
So I have a question. So I think, if I remember this correctly, in years past where we've done rehab or some kind of construction subsidy for nonprofits, do we have a recapture for those investments? So if a nonprofit puts on new windows, new roof, and then a year later they sell and they get this windfall, do we have any kind of recapture
Yeah,
on
we
that?
usually have a recapture provision that it has to be maintained as that facility or that service for, I can't remember, it's
like
5
5
to
years.
10 years,
Yeah.
somewhere along in there.
Okay, cool. And then we spent time earlier this evening looking at the homelessness report. And I'm curious, in light of that, does that change the score in terms of some of the priorities that we see here? I mean, is it possible as we go into this homelessness study further that we would want to reprioritize some of these dollars into shelters or some other direction that meets those goals?
Well, you certainly can do that. I can tell you that for our public service, like when we help with deposit, renter affordability program, the public service has a 15% cap. So no more than 15% of our CDBG funds can go towards public service. Now, if we wanted to do acquisition or rehab, we could look at acquiring property and rehabbing property that could be turned into shelters. We wouldn't have the money to do the ongoing administration of those, but we certainly can help with the facilities. Like right now, we still have our own home art money that we can use to purchase a shelter because it's for non-congregate housing that we have not yet put out there to use for that. That could be used for that purpose as well.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And I wasn't aware of some of those nuances. And final question. So this balance, I apologize, I had this, a 1.3 million.
Yes, sir.
Is what's a normal balance in that? I don't know what normal is.
Well, normal for us has been at least $500,000 to $600,000.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So can funds from this go towards a shelter project if it's not the entirety of it, but it's a portion of it for a homeless shelter?
You mean to purchase a shelter or to?
I'm thinking about the project that they're looking at doing to try and build a new large shelter that we're trying to use to help address homelessness. Is that something which these types of funds could be used to apply towards the construction of that, or is that not allowed, or is the 15% cap come into play with that?
For that particular project, since it's already started, we would not be able to just go and invest our dollars in it.
Okay.
Because it's already taken off, and we would have to start afresh. We don't know what procurement process they used to get the contractor. We don't know if they went through an environmental review when they purchased the land. So it's a lot of things that have already taken off before we can just plop our money in that would not meet our requirements. Now, if they were to want to sell that piece of land to us and put it up for sale, and then we could go in fresh that way and then do everything anew, like a new environmental review, go out for a new contractor, then that would be a possibility.
If
But
they were
right
to
now,
sell
as it
some property,
stands-
if they had some property for sale, could that property be purchased and rehabbed and then used for shelter?
Yes, because remember, we did purchase the first shelter with our CDBG funds back in the 80s, I believe.
So just to clarify, I was actually thinking along these lines because of Kaz's presentation earlier. If we wanted staff to be open to the idea of finding a property that could be used, adaptively reused as shelter housing that the city could purchase, do we have to add that to the plan as an option now? Or can that be added later if it's determined there actually is some property available somewhere?
Okay, the way our citizen participation plan is if we want to implement a new project, and if it's over $100,000, we have to go back out for a public comment to get the public's feedback on we're adding this new project or we're changing our plan, and then we have to go back out. So adding it is not a problem whether you do it now or you wait and do it later, because you just have to go back and notify the public that you've made a change in how you want to proceed with your dollars.
Okay, so I'm just thinking, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, Vanessa. I'm thinking that right now the infrastructure is there because that can help us meet our timeliness test, because it's an expensive project that we can spend that money on quickly.
Yes, ma'am.
Shovel ready. Would the purchase of some large property also have that same kind of quick turnaround if it were approved? You know, if we go out for public comment and we add it to the plan. Or is that something that takes so long to get into the system that it really wouldn't help us with a timeliness test, is I guess what I'm thinking.
Well, again, if we have to identify what that property is, then we have to go through all of our environmental checks on whether or not it's going to qualify. We have to go through SHPO. We have to negotiate with the property owner, get it appraised, and all that acquisition process. Then purchase it from there. So it could and it could not. You know, it all depends on how smoothly the process goes, especially the environmental clearance side. That could take a while sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Vanessa, do I understand correctly too that the building can happen, but that you are saying that the administration of a emergency shelter, for instance, would not be within the scope of what could be done with these funds?
That's right. Our CDBG funds cannot replace asset dollars.
Okay.
Asset dollars goes for administration, and the guidelines clearly say you can't just go in and replace funding to use HUD funding. So CDBG is more of a public facility, public program where you can buy and rehab and things like that. So it's not like construction. Like if we wanted to build housing, we'd have to use our home money. Home money, you can build housing. CDBG is more the acquisition, putting in the infrastructure types projects, or doing kind of rehab.
Okay.
It wouldn't be able to build. We'd have to find another source to build, which again, we have our home ARP, $1.2 million we have not spent yet.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to your home program.
Okay. So as you know, we became a home entitlement back in 2018. And we have been finally fortunate enough to spend just over $2 million of our home funds to build 38 low-income tax credit units out in the Baker subdivision that will be finishing up and starting leasing up this summer. And then we have a closeout of about $200,000. And so we wanted to and have started working, looking at building some additional single-family homes out on the Baker subdivision from our own home money, looking at some modular housing for the remaining of the affordable housing lots. Remember, we sold 8 of those 14 lots to Habitat. And so we have several lots that we want to also continue because we have to be at 51%. And then the remaining market rate lots can be sold on the market. So we're hoping to use our home funds to do some new construction of our own. And then we're also wanting to use our home funds to help with what they call a tenant-based rental assistance program, TBRA. That's very similar to the Section 8 program, where they can pay the rent for a eligible household or person over a specific period of time to get them back on their feet. And so it's a program that you can use under home that we're working with HUD to lay out what those guidelines would look like. But it's similar to having Section 8, but it doesn't run as long as Section 8. It's more temporary, like maybe 14 months or 18 months or something like that. But the person's rent would be subsidized while they're working towards more sustainability on their own. And so again, we projected what our current allocation is for 24-25, noting that our home allocation has been gone down drastically since we became an entitlement. We started off at $750,000 and now we're barely under 2. So I'm curious to see what that looks like when they come out with the allocations, whether or not that's going to stabilize or go down or whatever. So with those programs, we did not propose any new programs because we haven't had an opportunity to administer all the backlog we've had. So that's what it is for our home program allocation. And the home ARP isn't mentioned here because it's not part of our annual action plan. That is a separate one-time allocation of funds that we have to spend. So
Questions?
have to spend.
Have to spend. Questions?
So I'm gonna try and follow my train of thought down its track a little bit. So let's say that we find a property that we think we could buy and rehab. That's CDBG money that maybe we would find somebody to manage the property because we can't do that and it's not covered by CDBG.
Correct.
So we've got this property, it's got the opportunity for multiple people, perhaps sheltering, but maybe renting in a short-term rental situation. Could the home funds be used to subsidize that kind of rental within a facility that we might put together? Or am I just way off track?
So let me make sure I understand. You're saying if we bought a facility and say the facility had 20 units, I'm just throwing that number out, and they're for homeless or unhoused individuals, but you would want some of those to be rentals within that?
Yeah, I mean, is that something that's possible? Given, I mean, I'm imagining there is such a property, but I don't know that.
Yes, that might apply to zone. I don't know how that works with zoning.
I'm just trying to figure out whether the monetary.
Are we the owner of this property?
Yes, we own the property.
We're operating the facility and the rental units?
Somebody else is operating it.
So then could you use TBRA, for example, to
Yeah.
subsidize?
So someone else is leasing the space.
Correct.
Could we use to?
I'm making things complex.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
If we're not owning it, it's possible. I don't want to just say yes or no. I would rather research that and get back to you on that.
Other questions?
Right, the TBRA part is a real minor component.
Right.
I would think of that question.
Probably. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how we can efficiently use CDBG and home and
Can't be used on the same
TBRA
property.
money's not going to go very far either, right? I mean,
no.
Other questions?
It's a good question, but I have to research that answer.
I have to research that question.
One other, again, and I don't know the answer. So CDBG and thinking about this daytime shelter is something that's come up on the list. Is that something that the funds could be used? Again, assuming that there was a lot available, assuming we were not going to run it, but assuming that perhaps we could purchase and build or purchase and, revitalize. Is that an option?
And then give it,
You have that option. with
and give it
the
away
home ARP money,
to a
right?
company or organization around.
Right.
You have $1.2 million of home ARP money that you can use that we got funded to do non-congregate shelter.
So it's
The challenge when you
sitting
get
there
a partner who would operate it, that means assume all financial responsibility for it, right?
Okay, that's the tricky part.
That's the harder part.
Okay.
We've got the capital, not the ongoing operating.
All right.
But maybe we could partner with somebody.
So it's already there, sitting ready for the right partnership. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, open public comment. Does anyone wants to address council on the proposed annual action plan? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Is there any further questions? Otherwise, I entertain a motion on resolution approving the 25-26 proposed annual action plan projects for community block development grant, CDBG, and home programs.
Move alternative 1.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Betcher,
Aye.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Thank you, Vanessa.
May I ask a question?
Certainly.
Would you like for me to bring back some options? I mean, like I said,
Sure.
we haven't talked about the home art program in a while. I can explain that what those funds are for and who they're funded. They're for homeless individuals and families specifically.
That'd be very helpful.
That we could.
That'd be great.
Maybe explore how that works because you can purchase and rehab with those funds.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, move on to item number 53, hearing and proposed zoning text amendment, modifying billboard standards and creating new digital display standards. Any comments, Kelly, on this?
Yeah, so at the last meeting, you continued it. We did modify the ordinance a little bit. So you can see the intent for replacement is the same, that 2 structures have to be removed and 400 square feet of sign area per new digital sign face. We think it's structured better so it's a little more legible. And the other part was, and this is on my own doing, not at your direction, I removed the option on along I-35. And as I reread the ordinance and realized we don't really permit large billboards on I-35, it didn't seem to be the same as the carve out we were creating on Highway 30. So I removed I-35 from the ordinance. So only Highway 30 would be eligible for the digital billboards with the drafted ordinance. Then the other information you asked for was in response to the brightness of the sign. You asked for someone so I reached out to Jim Pease at your direction. I think he provided you some comments directly. I talked to him a little bit. We did not go further than that in trying to find another type of wildlife expert. I did look at some other studies in California specifically. I did not propose any amendments directly related to wildlife issues. We are reducing the brightness of the sign. At the end of the meeting last time, at your request, that Representative Lamar was present and we talked through that they could reduce the brightness. So we talked some more and we are proposing to reduce it from 250 nits down to 160 nits. That's substantially less at that number. So that they can live with that. That's something that meets their operational needs. It addresses in general the brightness. I think just in terms of the wildlife issue, I think with where we know this billboard is going, because we're likely to sign a lease on city property. There's not natural resources immediately abutting this. I think if the sign was located in a different location, you might reach a different conclusion about the brightness and the constant illumination of a site as maybe affecting something. But in this case, we're over 1,000 feet away from the Skunk River in all likelihood where this goes. The surrounding area is not, there are trees in the area, but it's meant to be commercially developed. It's not a set aside of a natural area where this would go. And we're near Highway 69. We're near the city. The other ambient conditions are quite bright itself, I think. So my belief from what I've seen at the 160 level, which is exceptionally low from what I've also seen, I think it's a very low number for what billboards typically get as an allowance. I think that we are in the right place for trying to make this work with some compatibility concerns, as well as trying to make this work as a project for us.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions? Declare the public hearing on this item to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this zoning text amendment regarding electronic billboards? Seeing and hearing none, declare public hearing to be closed. Entertain motion on first passage of ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Junk.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 54, hearing on establishing an urban revitalization area and plan.
Nothing's changed since we presented the draft. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? All right, declare a public hearing on establishing an urban revitalization area and plan for properties located at 329 Southeast 5th Street and 320 South Duff Avenue to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this topic? Seeing and hearing none, declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain a motion on first passage of ordinance establishing the 329 Southeast 5th and 320 South Duff Avenue urban revite area.
Move on first.
Second.
Roll call.
Betcher,
Aye.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins,
Aye.
Corriere,
Aye.
Garten,
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Entertain a motion on resolution approving the urban revitalization area plan.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins,
Aye.
Corriere,
Aye.
Garten,
Aye.
Junk,
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Thank you. Move on to item 55, hearing on emergency generator system for the power plant. Declare a public hearing on this item to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this topic? Seeing and hearing none, declare the public hearing on this item to be closed. Entertain a motion accepting reported bids.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Entertain a motion on resolution approving final plan specifications and awarding a contract to Van Manen Electric of Newton, Iowa in the amount of $310,670.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Rollins,
Aye.
Corriere,
Aye.
Garten,
Aye.
Junk,
Aye.
Betcher,
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
And I'm going to declare the public hearing on the 2024-2025 Accessibility Enhancement Program to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this topic? Seeing and hearing none, declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain a motion on accepting reported bids.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Entertain a motion on resolution approving final plans, specifications, and awarding a contract to CK Concrete Incorporated, Apella, Iowa, in the amount of $88,250.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Corriere,
Aye.
Garten,
Aye.
Junk,
Aye.
Betcher,
Aye.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 57, council, the applicant has asked if we could continue the hearing to May 27th. So I entertain a motion. I declare the public hearing to be open and entertain a motion to continue the hearing to May 27th.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Garten,
Aye.
Junk,
Aye.
Betcher,
Aye.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 58, entertain motion on second reading of ordinance amending Chapter 28 of the Ames Municipal Code, Section 28201, to increase drinking water rates by 3.5%, and Section 28304.3 to increase sanitary sewer rates by 5.5% for charges to be billed on or after July 1st, 2025.
Move on second.
Second.
Roll call.
Junk,
Aye.
Betcher,
Aye.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
And item 59, third reading and adoption of ordinance number 4548. Kelly, didn't we agree to go to 400 feet versus 200 feet in the ordinance?
We talked about this with the city attorney's office. This ordinance itself was not addressing the mailing requirement that you discussed at the last meeting. So your direction to in the future amend the ordinance for all 200-foot mailing notices to become 400 feet will happen in the future. You also said in the interim, just as practice, to begin doing that. So the city attorney believed that this ordinance doesn't deal with all of the 200-foot notices in the code. So it wasn't really on point to insert it here. So that's why it's not part of this.
Okay.
So that's why the 400 feet's not in this ordinance. This one, it's been drug out for a while. This was really targeted specifically at major site plans, along with some clarifying language about the Planning and Zoning Commission and zoning map amendments. When we had our conversation at the last meeting, I think we hadn't seen this. We just said move it ahead so everyone could review this again and see if you want to approve it on third. or if there was other direction. But the 400-foot can't be inserted right now per the city attorney's
It
direction.
can?
Cannot.
Okay, got it. All right. But from a policy standpoint, you're doing 400 feet.
Until the text amendment happens, the direction was as administratively have staff use 400 feet instead of 200.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, I entertain motion on third reading.
Move on third.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Betcher,
Aye.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins,
Aye.
Corriere,
Aye.
Garten,
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. We'll move on to disposition of communications of council. Request for permanent parking restrictions on Eisenhower Avenue. Is there an interest for a memo?
I'd move we get a memo on this.
Those, is there a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining?
Nay.
Okay. Second is a memo from Damian regarding the request for on-street parking on Suncrest Drive from Cottontail Lane to Cedar Lane. Is there an interest in putting this on a future agenda?
I would move we put it on a future agenda.
Those in favor, is there a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor, motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Next is a email regarding cigarettes on Main Street. Is it?
Not sure what we could do.
What? No, this one, I was curious what we're limited in doing in terms of the state. So I would ask maybe from.
What are you asking for? Whether you can outlaw it?
Yeah, if it's something we even could outlaw along Main Street.
Smoking.
Smoking.
Yeah.
Mark would have to look into for us.
I would request a memo from the city attorney on
This item.
on this item.
That's the only part though, prohibiting smoking, nothing else.
Right.
Okay. Is there a second? I'm sorry. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll
Get a
second.
memo from Mark.
I'll second.
Okay. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carried. Next is an email from Bradley Hemstad regarding murals. My question would be, is we want to forward this to public art, to look into, to consider, and let them
For their information. Yeah.
take action on it, or just, thank you very much. Okay, so is there a motion to refer to public art?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next is a request on from support for the 2025 Ames Story County Juneteenth celebration.
So
We have to, is that $1,000?
Yep.
I think we need to get Mark's opinion on all those things about.
yeah, Mark,
Right now,
um,
or move for a memo.
can the city attorney offer us his opinion on this now, or do we have to get a memo from him?
No, if he's ready to give your opinion, that's okay. Just
So
you can make sure it goes.
regarding the Juneteenth and the timing of what the legislature
Oh, that's right.
has
That's the key. It
imposed,
happens before
have
July
you-
1st. Oops. I forgot.
Can you give us guidance on that?
Yes, the bill in the legislature to prohibit cities and counties and universities from having any kind of DEI program or was actually passed in the House this morning. They adopted or today a Senate amendment, and so the bill's done and it's on its way to the governor. And I think there's every indication she's going to sign it. So if the governor signs it, it goes into effect July 1st. So this is in June. It's before the new law would be in effect. So, and I'm not 100% certain that this would be prohibited by this new law either. But we're looking at that along with a lot of other things right now to figure out what we can no longer do and what we can still do. So, but we're okay on this. The Juneteenth thing, it'll happen before
before the law's in effect. So we're fine.
Well, but it's not on the agenda. Is it on the agenda?
Mm-mm.
I would move we put
this item on a future agenda.
second.
In June.
Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Carried. Oh, I'm sorry.
Because
Thank
I'm
you.
an
Is there
officer.
That's the
Yeah.
first.
501?
Oh,
I got
I have to look.
Is that okay if we wait till then?
Yeah.
Okay, item number 6 is just more or less information. It was relative to item number 57, just for your reference. And
10th. No, wait.
memo from Mark regarding property taxes on Welch Avenue Lot T just answers the questions that were asked. And then number 8 is an update. And informational and pause memo is also informational.
Right. Correct. To
All right, move on to report of governing bodies. Discover Ames, anything?
We meet on Thursday.
Okay. AREA,
Yeah, we met, we got a report on all the housing activity that's going around, and I believe I left hard copy of those reports in your mailboxes back when we had our meeting, whenever that was. It's been some weeks now,
3 weeks ago.
so exciting things happening in Story County and the surrounding counties that are part of the alliance.
Thank you. All right, I'm embarrassed. Story County Emergency Management, I told you I'd bring the report, and guess who forgot the report? So I just put it down. It'll be 2 weeks from now. Transit.
We've not met. We'll be meeting in 2 weeks.
Oh, wait. We got a late breaking news here.
Well, tonight on the agenda, you guys approved the 2 appointments from student government. There's 1 reappointment. Her name's Emily Boland. I don't know if she's really excited. And then the
Is she
Senate-
qualified, though? That's more important.
I don't
Yeah, we'll have to have hearings on this appointment.
Yeah,
We have some vetting.
Maybe I should have spoken up when talking about it. My bad. And then Lauren Neal, she's a junior, incoming senior studying community and regional planning. So she's very excited as well, and we're really happy to have her.
Yeah, glad to have you on board for another year and also on transit too. So, all right. Council comments. Since we're down there at that far end of the dais, how about you take us home here? Start us off.
Alrighty. So first of all, thank you guys for approving my reappointment to Cyride. And
It was a close vote, you know. So.
yeah. In the ex officio role, I could not be more excited to continue in my role and continue working with all of you. I have an internship in Minnesota over the summer. I'm going to try and be in person at as many meetings as possible. With my work schedules, it'll probably the July and August meetings. I'm going to try and be there for all of those. The second one in August is the day after the first day of school, so I'll be there for sure. But June might be a little iffy. And then I want to say good luck to all of the Iowa State University students who are wrapping up their finals this week. You've got it, home stretch. And then a big congratulations to all of the graduates walking this weekend. I hope you and your families take advantage of the fun events happening downtown for 515 days. And I cannot think of a more perfect way to cap off, pun intended, your cyclone journey.
Good job.
Very punny.
Thank you. I thought long and hard about it.
Rach, anything?
I had a great time at the Mayor Council bike ride this past weekend. We had over 100 people there. So it was very successful and a great day for a bike ride to show off some of our Ames parks. I'd also like to congratulate any of the Cyclone graduates walking this weekend.
A couple things. So Memorial Day is coming up. So we have our Ames program on Monday, May 26th. There'll be a parade from City Hall, different time this year. We changed about 15 minutes, so it's at 10:15 from City Hall, and then the program is the same time 11 o'clock at the Ames Municipal Cemetery. The mayor will be there giving a greeting from the city. The Ames Municipal Band will be playing. And it's just a great event. And I encourage people to take a look at the municipal cemetery. We'll be putting up about 600 flags. Scouts come out at 7 o'clock on Monday morning and put up flags. And it's really sort of a breathtaking display to see those flags, each representing a veteran from here in Ames. So that's Monday, the 26th. And then second, we had told the community that with respect to our discussion of homelessness in our downtown area, that we would wait to receive the report. So that report has come in. Would love to see us find a date in the near future to have further conversations about sort of two subjects. And I'll go ahead and make a motion that we have a date on a future agenda where we address the sidewalk obstruction ordinance to see if there are some ways in which that language can be enhanced to promote the free use of the sidewalks. And then secondly, looking at, and I would specifically look at the application of curfew around the public library and other public spaces. And so now that we have the report, hopefully we can have that conversation. So that's my motion to bring those two items back to a future agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstaining? Motion carried.
Nothing else. Thanks.
Amber, anything?
I had the honor of standing in for the mayor at the Ames Animal Shelter fundraising kickoff this past weekend. And we announced that $3 million had already been raised from anonymous donors, in addition to the $3 million that the city council had set aside. So we are well on our way to seeing a wonderful new animal shelter. I will also just add, I went to the shelter's free microchip and vaccine clinic, not last weekend, but the weekend prior. And I pulled in and pulled out within 6 minutes, and both my cats got vaccinated and microchipped. So it was amazingly efficient and wonderful.
That's really fast.
Yeah,
Wow.
6 minutes.
Drive through.
Yes, drive through. Water plant. Pull in, drop your cats off, pull out.
Wow.
You sure you got the same cat back?
I did.
Anita?
I know that Juneteenth was part of our packet, but just to remind people that if you are interested in volunteering, that will be on June 14th. City usually also has booths, Ames Parks and Rec, and several, the library, Human Relations Commission, several groups participate, but love for folks to come out. Also need volunteers, and also interested if you have an organization that would like to have a presence there. So lots of opportunities to participate.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Gloria?
Well, I want to wish all of the students taking their final exams well. I have not contributed to that stress this semester. I also want to congratulate the graduates. I will be present helping people to get all lined up, and I'm volunteering for that. And I also want to congratulate Cleo Weston, who will be graduating, and welcome her back to our council chamber one last time, maybe.
For one of the shorter meetings.
We wanted to give you value for your time.
That's right.
So that's it.
Yeah. I just echo, it was so good to see you back, Cleo, and wish you well and success, and appreciate the fine work that the Daily has done again this year in terms of covering I tell people that the Tribune does a good job, the Daily does a great job also as well in terms of, covering topics. I know you don't go to print, so you get your stories out, earlier, but I I think really proud of what you guys do. So, Tim, Amber, and I had the honor of representing the council last week in Washington, D.C. And while a couple of the interactions with some of our elected officials were shorter than anticipated, there was a couple that were, I would say, somewhat positive. I'll share one thing that I did share with all of them. That was just a request to put a bug in the ear of the federal administration about trying to lower the temperature and the rhetoric that's going on, because it's affecting people in our community, and it affects those that are students and those that we count as friends and neighbors and residents. Had a very, I'd say the last lunch Tim and I had with a gentleman who consults with the U.S. Department of Transportation, is helping writing a grant application for a planning grant for something related to the downtown. And there may even be other opportunities. And then also there was John Pop, the mayor of Gilbert, was there. Got to spend quite a bit of time with him interacting. That's probably one of the benefits, is just being able to engage with and talk to people from Boone, Webster City, Nevada, Gilbert, Ames. Am I missing anything? I think that was it.
Webster City.
Webster City, yeah. It was just, and just everyone melded well together. I think there's some common messaging, and there was some very positive feedback that was just impressive, that there was people from different communities, counties, that were actually there working together and communicating and cooperating. So anyway, and you're welcome for giving you the opportunity. Tim and I got to miss our flight because it was canceled on Thursday night, but we feel the
We're
pain.
secretly celebrating.
But we got to experience the pain of people who are having problems flying. So anyway, all right. With that, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Will we adjourn?
Second.
All right. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Have a great evening.
Yeah. We took the un-